नमस्कार, वेलकम टू RCI's नवशिखर चैनल। आप सभी का RCI के नवशिखर चैनल में स्वागत है। आज का हमारा चर्चा का विषय है अप्लाइड बिहेवियर एनालिसिस इन इंटेलेक्चुअल डिसेबिलिटी एंड फॉर दिस डिस्कशन वी हैव एक्सपर्ट डॉक्टर SP जैना। ही इज़ एसोसिएट प्रोफेसर at Department of Applied Psychology in Delhi University. He will be discussing about applied behavior. तो मैं अपने व्यूअर्स को रिक्वेस्ट करना चाहूँगी उनके इस रिगार्ड में कोई भी क्वेश्चंस हैं, कोई भी व्यूज़ शेयर करना चाहते हैं या अपने किसी भी तरह की प्रॉब्लम डिस्कस करना चाहते हैं तो हमारे टोल फ्री नंबर पे कॉल कर सकते हैं। हमारा टोल फ्री नंबर है 1800-11-2008 265-11-613। हमारा फैक्स नंबर है 265-11-609। टाइम टू टाइम आपकी स्क्रीन पे नंबर्स फ्लैश होते रहेंगे तो आप कॉल करके हमारे एक्सपर्ट से बात कर सकते हैं। तो आइए हम अपनी डिस्कशन स्टार्ट करते हैं हमारे आज के टॉपिक के बारे में। वेलकम सर। जैसे कि आज का हमारा डिस्कशन है इट्स रिगार्डिंग अप्लाइड बिहेवियर एनालिसिस इन इंटेलेक्चुअल डिसेबिलिटी। जैसे कि हमारे व्यूअर्स जानते हैं कि इंटेलेक्चुअल डिसेबिलिटी हम जब बात करते हैं मेंटल रिटार्डेशन को हम काफ़ी अलग अलग नामों से जानते हैं, जिसमें हम एक टर्म यूज़ करते हैं इंटेलेक्चुअल डिसेबिलिटी। उसमें हम देखते हैं कि बच्चों में जो मेंटल रिटार्डेड बच्चे होते हैं उनमें कुछ बिहेवियर प्रॉब्लम्स होती हैं, कुछ साइकोलॉजिकली जो उनका डेवलपमेंट होता है वो डिले होता है। तो इसी के बारे में आज हमारे एक्सपर्ट से जानेंगे कि किन किन तरह की बिहेवियर प्रॉब्लम्स हो सकती हैं और उनको एक पेरेंट्स प्रोफेशनल के साथ मिल के कैसे टैकल कर सकते हैं। तो आइए डिस्कशन स्टार्ट करते हैं।
इंटेलेक्चुअल डिसेबिलिटी के बारे में आजकल इसके बारे में लोगों का काफ़ी जानकारी हासिल हुआ है, लेकिन इंटेलेक्चुअल डिसेबिलिटी के बारे में बहुत सारे लोगों को सही ढंग से पता नहीं है। ये एक लोग सोचते हैं कि एक बीमारी है, एक डिजीज़ है, लेकिन हम इसको सोचते हैं कि डिजीज़ नहीं है, ये कंडीशन है, कि अवस्था है। और इंटेलेक्चुअल डिसेबिलिटी उस बच्चों को, उन लोगों को कहा जाता है इंटेलेक्चुअल डिसेबल्ड जिन बच्चों का IQ या इंटेलिजेंस 70 से कम होता है। इंटेलेक्चुअल डिसेबिलिटी का मतलब ये होता है कि इन बच्चों का मानसिक रूप से बच्चे अनग्रसर हैं और इनका जो एडेप्टिव बिहेवियर डेफिसिट बहुत ज़्यादा होता है। ये कंडीशन होता है, सब एवरेज इंटेलेक्चुअल फंक्शनिंग होता है कंकरेंट विद द डेफिसिट इन एडेप्टिव बिहेवियर। एडेप्टिव बिहेवियर सबसे महत्वपूर्ण चीज़ है। एडेप्टिव बिहेवियर का मतलब ये होता है कि बच्चे जिस लेवल पर जिस प्रकार का व्यवहार करना चाहिए उस प्रकार का व्यवहार कर नहीं पाते हैं। परिवेश के साथ उनका समायोजन सही ढंग से हो नहीं पाता है। जिस परिवेश में, जिस उम्र में जिस प्रकार व्यवहार करना चाहिए इस प्रकार का व्यवहार बच्चे कर नहीं पाते हैं
जी।
और लोग कहते हैं कि नहीं, दिस इज़ अ काइंड ऑफ कंडीशन इन विच चिल्ड्रन फाइंड वेरी डिफ़िकल्ट टू डील विद द एनवायरनमेंट। लेकिन इसमें एक बात के बारे में जानकारी होना चाहिए कि दिस चिल्ड्रन डू हैव मेजर बिहेवियर प्रॉब्लम्स। जो बिहेवियर प्रॉब्लम्स होता है, बहुत सारे डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ बिहेवियर प्रॉब्लम्स होते हैं। कुछ व्यवहारिक समस्याएं होते हैं, जो होता है डेफिसिट बिहेवियर जो होता है उसको कहते हैं डेफिसिट बिहेवियर्स। और कुछ व्यवहार होते हैं एक्सेसिव बिहेवियर जो ज़रूरत से ज़्यादा होता है
जी।
कुछ ऐसे व्यवहार होता है जिसको कहते हैं हम इनएप्रोप्रिएट स्टिमुलस कंट्रोल। इनएप्रोप्रिएट स्टिमुलस कंट्रोल उसी व्यवहार को हम कहते हैं जिस व्यवहार बहुत अनयूजुअल दिखाई देता है बच्चों में। जैसे कि कोई चीज़ जो खाने वाला चीज़ नहीं है उसको खाना, कोई चीज़ को जैसे स्निफिंग करना, मुंह में डालना। ऐसे बहुत सारे व्यवहार है जो साधारण रूप से हम इसको एक्सप्लेन नहीं कर सकते, इसको अनाकांक्षित व्यवहार कहते हैं। तो इन बच्चों में जो चीज़ रिटार्डेड है, इट इज़ नॉट द मेंटेलिटी बट इट इज़ द बिहेवियर विच इज़ रिटार्डेड
जी।
और इस व्यवहार को इम्प्रूव करने के लिए, अच्छा करने के लिए पेरेंट्स, बाकी जो पीयर्स है और आसपास में जो लोग हैं उनको बताया जाता है कैसे उसको इम्प्रूव करना है।
सर, जैसे कि ये आपने बिहेवियर के बारे में बताया कि मेंटली रिटार्डेड जो बच्चे होते हैं उनमें कुछ बिहेवियर प्रॉब्लम्स होती हैं। अगर हम एक सोशल कॉन्टेक्स्ट की बात करते हैं, सोशली अगर हम देखते हैं तो आप इस बारे में क्या कहेंगे कि सोशली एक एप्रोप्रिएट बिहेवियर जो होता है वो क्या होता है? कौन सा एक ऐसा बिहेवियर है, बिहेवियर्स के कौन से ऐसे कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स होते हैं जो दैट वी कैन कंसीडर अ नॉर्मल गुड बिहेवियर?
जो व्यवहार समाज के द्वारा आकांक्षित होता है, लोग एक्सपेक्ट करते हैं कि एक पर्टिकुलर उम्र में एक व्यवहार होना चाहिए। जैसे कि चलना दौड़ना, ये एक उम्र में होना चाहिए, बच्चों को इस डेवलपमेंट होना चाहिए बच्चों में। लेकिन ये व्यवहार सही ढंग से हो नहीं पाता है तो बच्चों को दिक्कत होती है, बच्चों को लोगों के साथ मिलने में मुश्किल होती है, अडेप्ट करने में मुश्किल होता है। और ये जो डेवलपमेंटल डिसेबिलिटी, डेवलपमेंटल डिफ़िकल्टी जो बच्चों में होता है, इसके वजह से बाकी जो व्यवहारिक चीज़ें हैं जैसे कि सोशलाइजेशन है, इंटरेक्शन लोगों के साथ होता है, वो कम हो जाता है। जैसे कि एक बच्चा चल नहीं पाता है तो उसका जो फील्ड होता है, फील्ड ऑफ इंटरेक्शन होता है, लोगों के साथ जो मिलना जुलना है वो कम हो जाता है,
वो लिमिटेड हो जाता है।
स्पीच डेवलपमेंट नहीं होता है तो बच्चा कैसे कम्युनिकेट करेगा, लोगों के साथ कैसे इंटरेक्ट करेगा
जी।
इसके वजह से कभी कभी पेरेंट्स ये सोचते हैं कि बच्चा इंटरेक्ट कर नहीं पाता है, उसको घर में रखते हैं। इंटरेक्ट करने के लिए जो सुविधा, जो प्रकार का परिवेश क्रिएट करना चाहिए, कभी कभी वो परिवेश क्रिएट नहीं करते हैं, जिसकी वजह से इस व्यवहार का जैसे डेवलपमेंट होना चाहिए वो डेवलपमेंट हो नहीं पाता है। बिहेवियर डेवलप्स थ्रू इंटरेक्शन। हम जितना इंटरेक्ट करते हैं लोगों के साथ, इतना हमारा व्यवहार डेवलपमेंट होता है व्यवहार में। लेकिन इंटरेक्शन में हम रुकावट डालेंगे, बच्चों को अलाउ नहीं करेंगे इंटरेक्ट करने के लिए, तो बच्चों का ये डेवलपमेंट सही ढंग से नहीं हो पाता है।
द प्रॉपर स्टिमुलेटिंग एनवायरनमेंट शुड बी।
एग्जैक्टली। कभी कभी लोग इसको सोचते हैं कि ये बच्चों को कैसे हम इंटरेक्शन करवाएं। दे डोंट हैव एडिक्वेट स्किल्स टू मेक द चाइल्ड इंटरेक्ट विथ अदर पीपल। इसके लिए स्किल का भी ज़रूरत होता है। एंड समटाइम्स पीपल फील दैट वी हैव ए चाइल्ड हु इज़ मेंटली रिटार्डेड, हु इज़ नॉट गुड फॉर एनीथिंग, so we let us not take the child out and interact with people.
जी।
This kind of जो wrong ideas है, जो beliefs है, ये beliefs कभी कभी बच्चों को दूसरे लोगों के साथ interact करवाने में, बच्चों को जो सुयोग देना चाहिए उसमें कमी ला देता है।
You mean the parents have some negative attitudes towards this?
Yes. कुछ बच्चे होते हैं जैसे कि दे हैव अ लॉट ऑफ maladaptive behaviors like body rocking, movement of body, face slapping, self injurious behavior, जिसके वजह से ये लोगों के साथ इनका इंटरेक्शन कम हो जाता है। लेकिन ऐसे व्यवहार को हम अप्लाइड बिहेवियर एनालिसिस का प्रयोग के द्वारा इस व्यवहार को हम कम कर सकते हैं। अप्लाइड बिहेवियर एनालिसिस का मौलिक अर्थ है कि हम ये समझते हैं कि हर व्यवहार होने से पहले कुछ स्टिमुलस होते हैं, कुछ सेटिंग होते हैं, जिसको कहते हैं कि एनवायरमेंटल सेटिंग, जिस सेटिंग से व्यवहार पैदा होता है, व्यवहार स्टिमुलेटेड होता है, और इस परिवेश इस व्यवहार को मेंटेन करता है। जैसे कि बच्चा कहता है कि आई वांट ए ग्लास ऑफ वाटर, मुझको पानी चाहिए
जी।
पानी इस बच्चे को मिल जाता है तो पानी के बारे में बोलने का जो इसका जो इच्छा है ये बढ़ जाता है, इस चीज़ को बार बार वो प्रयोग करता है। जैसे कि इस चीज़ को सही ढंग से कह नहीं पाता है तो उसको पानी नहीं मिलता है। इसका मतलब ये हुआ सही ढंग से उच्चारण करने से कोई चीज़ मिल जाता है, सही ढंग से उच्चारण नहीं करने से चीज़ें नहीं मिलते हैं।
एक बिहेवियर जो उसने सीख लिया है,
तो इस व्यवहार को सही ढंग से बच्चा सीख लेगा तो उसका जो कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस है, उसका जो परिणाम है वो सही होता है।
मीन्स लर्निंग द एप्रोप्रिएट बिहेवियर।
यस, द बिहेवियर इज गवर्न्ड बाय द इफेक्ट इट प्रोड्यूसेस ऑन द एनवायरनमेंट। मैं आपके साथ बात करता हूँ, बात करने के बाद व्हेन यू नॉड योर हेड, आई नो दैट यू अंडरस्टैंड।
जी। That means I'm giving the appropriate expression to your thinking.
So when the child does something, he plays with a toy. The toy makes a noise. Noise होने के बाद उसके साथ खेलने का संभावना बढ़ जाता है।
जी।
बच्चा उठ के चलता है। If he takes correct steps, the child can walk better. If he moves away from one place to the other, the child can learn better how to walk. But if you are not allowing him to walk, then he will not learn as to how to walk properly. How to walk properly in the sense he doesn't know about the consequences. हम ये कहते हैं कि बच्चे जब इंटरेक्ट करते हैं सही ढंग से इंटरेक्ट नहीं कर पाते हैं, इसलिए बच्चों को थोड़ा हम कभी बच्चों को घर में रख देते हैं, बच्चों को इंटरेक्ट करने के लिए नहीं देते हैं, तो द सोशल स्किल डजंट डेवलप एडिक्वेटली।
जी।
इसका जो इफेक्ट, प्रभाव को देखने के लिए बच्चों को सुयोग नहीं मिलता है। इसलिए बच्चा जितना भी खराब हो, जितना भी उसको व्यवहारिक समस्याएं हैं, प्रॉब्लम हो सकता है, इसको एक्सपोजर देना चाहिए, उसको इंटरेक्ट करवाना चाहिए, ताकि इंटरेक्शन के द्वारा उसको आना चाहिए कि मैं कैसे इंटरेक्ट किया। और परिवेश के साथ इंटरेक्ट करने के बाद ही हम जानते हैं कि मेरा इंटरेक्शन सही हुआ या नहीं हुआ है। बच्चा इस चीज़ के बारे में, बच्चा को समझ इस प्रकार आएगा कि बच्चा जो इंटरेक्ट किया है वो इंटरेक्शन जो है वो सही है या नहीं है। इसका मतलब ये हुआ whether if your behavior is reinforced by some kind of environmental changes, the behavior is retained.
जी।
If the behavior is not reinforced by anything, the behavior doesn't continue to occur. So this kind of changes we call as reinforcement, punishment, or you can say ignoring or ignorance, extinction. Reinforcement is any consequence that occurs following a behavior and increases the probability of occurrence of that behavior. And the behavior gets reinforced, gets concretized, behavior gets strengthened, and it gets retained. On the other hand, if a behavior is occurring which is not followed by any kind of reinforcement, or it is followed by ignoring, then this behavior doesn't sustain, doesn't continue. In the natural environment, we find a lot of aversive situations, aversive conditions which do not permit the behavior to occur or even continue. So we have to create such an environment, a kind of environment which can sustain the behavior. So behavior should sustain in an environment which is conducive for it. We have to create that kind of environment. It is not the medicine, it is not the kind of intrusive therapy that will bring a complete change in the behavior.
Is this the creativity of the environment?
Exactly, yes.
सर जैसे आपने बताया कि हम इग्नोरेंस, एक्सटेंशन या जो डिफरेंट स्ट्रैटेजीज़ बताई जो हम एक बिहेवियर के अकॉर्डिंग हम बात करते हैं, अगर एक कॉमन एग्जांपल लेते हैं, चाहे मेंटली रिटार्डेड बच्चा हो एक या आम नॉर्मल बच्चा, तो जैसे छोटे बच्चे होते हैं किसी चीज़ के लिए वो रोते हैं, दे क्राई फॉर द थिंग एंड दे आर वेरी स्टबन एट देयर इनिशियल एज, और पेरेंट्स जो होते हैं वो उनकी विश पूरी कर देते हैं. नाउ दे आर लर्निंग दैट इफ दे विल क्राई they will get the desired thing or their needs will be fulfilled, but I think that it's the behavior which is not appropriate or which is not correct. आप इस बारे में क्या कहेंगे?
बच्चे कभी कभी जिद करते हैं. एक बच्चों का उम्र होता है जिस उम्र में बच्चे बहुत ज़्यादा जिद करने लगते हैं. They fail to understand how people look at it. जब जिद करते हैं वो नहीं समझना चाहते हैं कि ये पापा के लिए, मम्मी के लिए क्या दिक्कत ला सकता है. वो एक उम्र होता है, बच्चे जब ईगोसेंट्रिक होते हैं, अपने बारे में सोचते हैं, दूसरों के बारे में नहीं सोचते हैं. लेकिन हम ये नहीं कहेंगे कि वो उम्र ऐसे ही है और उसको ऐसे ही छोड़ दें. कभी कभी बच्चे जो जिद करते हैं, इस जिद के वजह से पेरेंट्स इस चीज़ से निपटने के लिए बच्चों को कुछ दे देते हैं. हम इसको कहते हैं निगेटिव रिइंफोर्समेंट. द रिलीफ that the child gives after getting something, that reinforces the behavior. That reinforces the behavior of the parents of giving something also. भाई रो रहा है, उसको कुछ दे दो, चुप हो जाएगा, शांत हो जाएगा. लेकिन ये शांत करवाने का जो तरीका है, ये तरीका गलत है, इसलिए कि बच्चा को शांत करने के लिए हम रिइंफोर्समेंट दे रहे हैं. तो बच्चा ये सीख लेता है कि मैं जब चिल्लाऊंगा तब मुझको कोई चीज़ मिलेगा, नहीं चिल्लाने से कोई चीज़ नहीं मिलेगा. इसका मतलब है ये चिल्लाने का व्यवहार इस रिइंफोर्समेंट के वजह से, चीज़ें मिलने की वजह से बढ़ जाता है. और इसका ये फल होता है कि कोई चीज़ उसको चाहिए तो चिल्लाना शुरू करता है. एक निगेटिव बिहेवियर गेट्स रिइंफोर्स्ड बिकॉज ऑफ दिस काइंड ऑफ रिइंफोर्समेंट, बिकॉज ऑफ दिस काइंड ऑफ कंटिजेंसीज. कंटिजेंसी मीन्स द काइंड ऑफ शेड्यूल दैट यू पुट आफ्टर द बिहेवियर इज एग्जिबिटेड. तो कभी पेरेंट्स खुद रिलीफ पाने के लिए इन चीज़ों को दे देते हैं, तो बच्चों का ये व्यवहार कभी कभी सस्टेन कर जाता है, बड़ा दृढ़ीभूत हो जाता है. जैसे कि घर में बच्चा है, इसको कोई भी आदमी आके कोई भी चीज़ दे सकता है, रिइंफोर्समेंट उसको मिल सकता है. पापा, मम्मी, अंकल, आंटी कुछ ना कुछ चीज़ देते रहते हैं. इसके वजह से इसको इतना रिइंफोर्समेंट मिलता रहता है कि वी डोंट हैव एनी कंट्रोल ऑन द रिइंफोर्सर्स. सो द फर्स्ट थिंग दैट वी शुड डू, दैट वी शुड डेवलप a kind of environment in which these reinforcers and punishers are properly controlled. Parents act as reinforcers as well as punishers. We call them as contingency managers. The natural contingency managers, the natural caregivers who give a lot of care to the child in the form of reinforcement and punishment. Because of this reinforcement, child becomes very close. The child develops bonds with the parents so closely. Some parents are punitive, they give a lot of punishment. Child learns to be punitive by getting punishment from others. When the person punishing the child, when the parent is punishing the child, he also poses a role model for the child. The child picks up the same behavior and tries to use the same behavior with others, with peers, with younger children, with other people, and he learns this punitive role model. Apart from that, whenever the punisher is not there, the behavior becomes much more violent, much more disruptive. So punishment should be avoided as much as possible. But one should see that punishment is used sometimes very infrequently along with reinforcement. क्योंकि हमारे ज़िंदगी में हमको punishment मिलता रहता है. We get punishment, we get reward also. We cannot say that punishment can be stopped altogether. Mild punishment can be given in the form of scolding, in the form of saying that you don't do like this, or in the form of ignoring. That can be done. But at the same time, there should be a good reinforcer, because punishment doesn't teach you anything. Does it teach anything?
No.
It doesn't teach anything.
It just demoralizes the child as well.
Yes, it only reduces the behavior. It acts like a magical stick. You beat the child will be quiet that time. The teacher comes to the classroom with a stick, right? The children used to stop making noise.
और अगर हम बच्चे के नेगेटिव्स को पॉइंट आउट कर रहे हैं तो साथ में ये भी ज़्यादा ज़रूरी है कि हम पॉजिटिव्स को एडमायर करें.
एग्जैक्टली. क्योंकि हम ये विश्वास करते हैं कि एडेप्टिव बिहेवियर डेफिसिट बच्चों में जब रहता है तो कुछ ऐसे व्यवहार रहता है जिसको कहते हैं स्प्लिंटर स्किल्स. इन स्प्लिंटर स्किल्स को डेवलप करना चाहिए. इफ़ यू reinforce these behaviors, then negative behaviors get subsided. Negative behaviors reduce because of the development of the positive behaviors. There is a strategy which is known as differential reinforcement of other behaviors.
जी.
जो व्यवहार बच्चा कर रहा है, खराब व्यवहार कर रहा है, इस खराब व्यवहार को दृष्टि नहीं देके don't focus on that behavior, you reinforce other positive behaviors so that the negative behavior can be camouflaged by the development of positive behaviors.
सर ये जो आपने टेक्निक्स बताई मतलब डिपेंड करता है कि बच्चा किस तरह का बिहेवियर शो कर रहा है और हमें उसको कैसे मैनेज करना है. ये सारी हमारी बात चल रही है बिहेवियर के ऊपर. तो हम ये जानना चाहेंगे कि जो बच्चों में बिहेवियर प्रॉब्लम्स होती हैं बेसिकली उसका रीज़न क्या होता है. व्हाट इज़ द रीज़न बिहाइंड दीज बिहेवियर प्रॉब्लम्स इन द चिल्ड्रन.
अप्लाइड बिहेवियर एनालिसिस ABA में हम ये कहते हैं कि बिहेवियर इज द कॉज एंड इफेक्ट इन इटसेल्फ. द बिहेवियर, द काइंड ऑफ बिहेवियर वन एग्जिबिट्स, that becomes the cause of the next behavior itself. If the behavior is reinforced, somebody nods his head, we understand that the person understands.
जी.
Right? If a behavior is reinforced, the behavior continues. If the behavior is punished, the behavior stops. So stopping, continuing or not continuing depends on the kind of contingency that we keep for this behavior, the consequences that we keep. In that sense we say ABA, antecedent, behavior and the consequence. ABC we sometimes talk about ABC. ABA is applied behavior analysis, in which we try to focus on this particular aspect. So not only that people learn from direct reinforcement or punishment, but also they learn by watching others. The kind of punishment and reinforcement is given to others, that also shapes the behavior of the child. This is called modeling. The behavior gets modeled by watching others.
And the child learns everything from the environment and the people surrounding them.
Yes, yes. They watch how the behavior is terminated in, how the behavior is consequated with.
जी.
If somebody is making a lot of noise in the classroom and other children used to clap, used to laugh at it, they reinforce it, then the behavior gets reinforced and this child learns that this behavior is a good behavior by watching others.
जी.
This kind of vicarious learning takes place in our society every day. The child learns how to behave by watching others. Perhaps almost 80% of behaviors are learned by watching others. If you go a high place and you look down and feel that you shouldn't jump from there, this is because you have watched, you have read, you have understood that jumping from that place will kill you.
जी.
You don't have to jump from there to kill yourself to find out whether really I'll get killed or not.
The individual is learning from the experience.
Exactly, yes. So this experience is important. You have to give a very systematic kind of experience, you have to plan it. Now in schools, in special institutions, children are taught about good behaviors. But these good behaviors do not continue to remain in the natural environment, in homes, in other situations, because of the very fact that these behaviors are not followed by adequate reinforcers and we don't program any kind of generalization. We understand that if we teach something, हम कुछ चीज़ें सिखा रहे हैं बच्चों को और स्कूल्स के बाहर जब जाते हैं ये व्यवहार ऑटोमेटिकली बच्चे सीख लेंगे और इसको इम्प्लीमेंट कर लेंगे.
जी.
लेकिन ये सही ढंग से इम्प्लीमेंट इसलिए नहीं कर पाते हैं कि वी डोंट प्रोग्राम द एनवायरनमेंट.
जनरलाइज ही नहीं हो पाता.
एग्जैक्टली. सो दिस जनरलाइजेशन डजंट टेक प्लेस बिकॉज वी डोंट हैव ए प्लान और ए प्रोग्राम फॉर इट. Supposing the child has a lot of children do have toileting difficulties.
जी.
We teach the child in the special school or in a special institution through a clinical psychologist or a special educator how to use toilet. The kind of toilet that we use in our schools, institutions are different than the kind of toilet which is used at home, for instance. And because of this, whatever skills they learn in one place, they do not get generalized to other situations.
Because we are teaching the concept in isolation and we are not making the concept in generalization.
Exactly. So the kind of things that we are choosing, sometimes we design different kind of environment. Try to see that these environment are closer to the natural environment so that it can be adequately generalized. We have to program it. For instance, the child is not able to use money, and you are teaching money in this room, in a classroom. Child is learning about it, but when he goes to a marketplace, he is not able to do it. The best thing is to find out one shopkeeper who can work as a mediator to make the child learn this skill. So what you do is you take the child to that shopkeeper and teach how to exchange money, how to get things.
मतलब बाहर सराउंडिंग्स में जाके अलग अलग सिचुएशन में उस कॉन्सेप्ट को किस तरीके से हमें आम रूप से उसको जनरलाइज करना है. अब जैसे कि अगर हम बच्चे को कॉन्सेप्ट सिखाते हैं शेप का, तो अगर हम सर्कल सिखाते हैं, सिर्फ बॉल लेके हम उसको सर्कल का कॉन्सेप्ट नहीं सिखा सकते. उसको हर चीज़ बताने के, पैसे भी गोल होते हैं और रोटी भी गोल होती है. मतलब हर तरह के ऑब्जेक्ट्स का एग्जाम्पल लेके हमें समझाना बहुत ज़्यादा ज़रूरी है.
बच्चों का इंटरेक्शन सिर्फ ऑब्जेक्ट के साथ नहीं होता है, लोगों के साथ भी होता है. फॉर इंस्टेंस, शॉपकीपर के साथ जो इंटरेक्शन होना चाहिए, बच्चा सही ढंग से कर नहीं पाता है. He has anxiety towards people who are strangers, whom he doesn't know. Until unless you allow him to interact with these kind of people, the child will not feel comfortable. So whatever skill he has learned, he will forget. When he goes to a marketplace, he will not be able to exchange money, will not be in a position to change the money and purchase things. So he has to be taken to that situation where he can make exchanges. This exchange, this kind of behavior, when get reinforced, that will continue to occur for a longer period of time. So classroom teaching is not sufficient for children suffering from intellectual disability. We have to take them out, away from the classroom to the natural environment where these skills are to be taught, these skills are to be executed. Now parents play a very important role in executing these skills. Day in, day out, they work with the children. People who act as therapists, act as specialists, their skills are not sufficient in understanding children. They may be masters in their respective fields, but when it comes to practice, they need to learn a lot from the parents, those who are working with the children daily, every day. Parents will tell you what the child likes, what the child doesn't like, what are the behaviors in which they want to have some changes, and what are the behaviors which they don't want to change. They don't want to manipulate those behaviors. So one need to talk to the parents to find out what is the most important behavior which they want to change at first. Take up those behaviors, prioritize them, and deal with them by using applied behavior analysis as one of the principles. Although I don't say that applied behavior analysis is the only answer to intellectual disabilities. There are different approaches to deal with children who suffer from intellectual disabilities. Applied behavior analysis, of course, is one of the most interesting and most effective approach which can bring a lot of change in the lives of children suffering from intellectual disability. Because it is not the intellect as such which is wrong, but the behavior in the child which is wrong. By behavior only we understand what people thinks, how people think about different issues, different situations.
क्योंकि माता पिता के साथ ही बच्चे ज़्यादातर समय बिताते हैं और फैमिली मेम्बर्स ही उनके साथ ज़्यादा क्लोज होते हैं, तो वो ज़्यादा अच्छे से जान सकते हैं कि बच्चे को क्या पसंद है, क्या नहीं पसंद है, बच्चा किस तरह की सिचुएशन में इजीली कंफर्टेबल है, किस तरह से अपने आप को एडजस्ट कर सकता है.
राइट. बच्चों के साथ बच्चों का जो इंटरेक्शन, दैट इज ऑल्सो इम्पॉर्टेंट. चिल्ड्रन लर्न बेटर फ्रॉम अदर चिल्ड्रन. सो पीयर ट्यूटरिंग, पीयर लर्निंग इज ऑल्सो वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट इशू. देयर वी ट्रेन द पीयर्स. जो नॉर्मल पीयर होते हैं, एवरेज इंटेलेक्चुअली एवरेज पीयर्स होते हैं, उनको हम मीडिएटर के हिसाब से लेते हैं. उनको बताते हैं कि कैसे बच्चों के साथ बात करना है, क्या एग्जैक्टली करना है जब बच्चे इंटरेक्ट करते हैं. स्कूल टीचर्स को हम ये कहते हैं कि भाई जब हम आप कोई इंस्ट्रक्शन देते हैं, ट्राई टू वेरी क्लियरली आइडेंटिफाई योर प्लान्स, यू प्रिपेयर योर प्लान्स प्रॉपर्ली एंड यू गिव सम इंस्ट्रक्शन as a stimulus and try to see if it is properly executed, you give a reinforcement. In many schools, in many situations, people don't give adequate amount of reinforcement which a child need to get. Now particularly talking about intellectual disabilities, many children do have peculiar kind of reinforcers for themselves. They like peculiar kind of reinforcers. Some children like rocking, some children like moving around, some children like swinging, some children like some other kind of behaviors which will be good for them, which they prefer to perform number of times. These behaviors can be used as reinforcers. This is known as activity reinforcers. Some activities can be very pleasurable for the children. Lot of surveys have been conducted to find out which kind of activities suit them, which kind of activities can be posed as reinforcers for the children. The child is not sitting at one place. If he sits for 5 minutes, he is given some kind of reinforcers. If he is taken out, he feels comfortable. Now, while choosing reinforcers, don't make it very expensive. If you make it expensive, you cannot continue to give it longer. For instance, if you are giving big chocolates, big candies, you cannot always provide candies to the child. You can start with candies, you can give something which the child likes most, but after some time, try to see that natural forms of reinforcers are provided to the child, so that the skill can be generalized. You can easily reinforce by just saying sabas, you can reinforce by saying good boy, good girl. That can also be reinforcing for the child.
बच्चे को ऐसी हैबिट नहीं डालनी कि उससे मतलब जो
हर रोज तो
बिहेवियर
चाहे कि मुझको बड़ा कैंडी मिले और ऐसा कुछ चीज मिले. Because of that, sometimes many of these programs fail. The program should be concerned about the reality. और एक गरीब अभिभावक को आप कहेंगे कि उसको कैंडी दीजिए, बड़ा बड़ा चॉकलेट दीजिए, they will not be able to provide. They should give natural forms of reinforcers which are available. Now, environment plays a very important role in training children with intellectual disabilities. Some environment are not conducive. Physical environment, for instance, the environment in which the child lives should be prepared in such a manner that the child can easily move, easily manipulate and get a response out of it. This is most important. Not only that he should move, he should perform, but should see that the therapist should see that it gets a response from the environment.
जी.
There are shoes in which will give you a sound, a kind of sonorous sound, good sound. This sound make the child walk. This sound make the child more comfortable. So he starts walking. That becomes a reinforcer for the child.
तो इसका मतलब एनवायरनमेंट जो है बहुत इम्पॉर्टेंट रोल प्ले करता है कि जैसे कि आपने बताया कि एनवायरनमेंट में हम देखते हैं कि किस तरीके का एनवायरनमेंट हमें बच्चे को प्रोवाइड करना है, आसपास का सराउंडिंग कैसे होना चाहिए, हमें उसके बिहेवियर को किस तरह से टैकल करना है और नेगेटिव बिहेवियर को रीइंफोर्स हमें बिल्कुल भी नहीं करना है और पॉजिटिव बिहेवियर को हमें बच्चे को रिवॉर्ड देते हुए रीइंफोर्स करना है. और जैसे कि हमारे एक्सपर्ट ने बताया, रिवॉर्ड भी हमें बच्चे को उस तरह का देना है कि उसको बैड हैबिट्स ना लगे, उसके नेगेटिव्स उसमें एग्जैजरेट ना हो. तो ये डिस्कशन हम कर रहे हैं अप्लाइड बिहेवियर एनालिसिस में, बेसिकली फोकसिंग ऑन टू द इंटेलेक्चुअल डिसेबिलिटी चिल्ड्रन. सो वी विल बी डिस्कसिंग मोर अबाउट आफ्टर दिस शॉर्ट ब्रेक.
The chief handicap of the blindness is not blindness. बता यानी डेफ ब्लाइंडनेस क्या है? बधिरांधता एक स्थिति है जिसमें दृष्टिहीनता एवं सुनने की शक्ति में कमी आती है तथा जिससे विचारों के आदान प्रदान और रोजमर्रा की आवश्यकताओं की पूर्ति में समस्या उत्पन्न होती है. बलराम एक 9 साल का बधिरांत बच्चा है. वो एक प्री मैच्योर बच्चा है जिसका शारीरिक विकास उसकी आयु के अनुरूप नहीं हुआ था. वो एक निम्न वर्गीय श्रेणी से संबंध रखता है तथा 5 साल से लगातार नेशनल एसोसिएशन फॉर ब्लाइंड दिल्ली के प्रशिक्षण कार्यक्रम से संलग्न है. इन 5 सालों के अंतर्गत उसे रोजमर्रा के कामों में, हलन चलन में, उसकी शैक्षणिक जरूरतों के अनुसार संप्रेषण द्वारा प्रशिक्षण दिया गया है जिससे वो इन सब क्रियाओं में स्वावलंबी बन सके. बलराम बिना किसी सहायता के चाकू से फलों को काट सकता है. उनके छिलकों को कूड़ेदान में डाल सकता है. अपने बर्तनों को खुद साफ कर सकता है. उन्हें सही जगह पर रख सकता है। सही बर्तनों का चयन करके खुद खाना खाता है। एवं पानी की बोतल निकालकर पानी भी पीता है। इन सभी क्रियाओं में वो टेक्चुअल साइन लैंग्वेज से निर्देशों को ग्रहण करता है और अपने भावों को व्यक्त करता है। टेलर फ्रेम और ब्रेलर द्वारा गणित, पठन लेखन में भी प्रशिक्षण प्राप्त कर रहा है। सभी बच्चों की तरह उसका भी एक मनपसंद खेल है। उसे सेल फोन को अपने कानों पर लगाकर उसका कंपन महसूस करना अच्छा लगता है। कहा जाता है, वॉकिंग विद अ फ्रेंड इन डार्क इज बेटर देन वॉकिंग अलोन इन लाइट। कहने का तात्पर्य है कि वो लॉन्ग केन ट्रेवल, टैक्टाइल पाथ, ट्रेलिंग और लैंडमार्क्स द्वारा हलन चलन में भी सक्षम है और व्यायाम संबंधी क्रियाएं जैसे ट्रेडमिल, स्टैटिक साइकिल का स्वचालन भी कर सकता है। कहा गया है, द बेस्ट एंड मोस्ट ब्यूटीफुल थिंग्स इन द वर्ल्ड कैन नॉट बी सीन और इवन टच्ड, दे मस्ट बी फेल्ट विद द हार्ट।
वेलकम बैक टू आवर डिस्कशन। ब्रेक में जाने से पहले हमने बात करी थी कि एनवायरनमेंट स्टिमुलेशन किस तरह से ज़रूरी होता है बच्चे के बिहेवियर को लर्नड और अनलर्नड बनाने के लिए, और उसमें हमने जाना कि डिफरेंट बिहेवियर्स को हम किन तरह की स्ट्रैटेजीज़ को अप्लाई करके टैकल कर सकते हैं। तो आइए अप्लाइड बिहेवियर एनालिसिस में हम और जानते हैं हमारे एक्सपर्ट से कि इसके क्या क्या प्रिंसिपल्स होते हैं और हमें इसको कैसे फॉलो करना चाहिए, किस तरीके से हम इन प्रिंसिपल्स को अप्लाई कर सकते हैं।
अप्लाइड बिहेवियर एनालिसिस में हम ये कहते हैं कि ह्यूमन बिहेवियर इज डिटरमिन्ड बाय द इफेक्ट्स इट प्रोड्यूसेस ऑन द एनवायरनमेंट, एंड थ्रू दिस द चाइल्ड, द इंडिविजुअल, द ऑर्गेनिज्म acquires behavior. Not only acquires but also retains and continues the behavior. Behavioral development as such occurs not here alone, but it occurs through the environment in which one operates. Not only that your nervous system grows, but also the growth of the nervous system is not just physical, it is also to some extent based on stimulation that one gets from the environment. The kind of learning environment that you are in, that also helps in development of your brain, your mental growth, your intellectual growth. That is why stimulation is very important, is the core aspect of applied behavior analysis. A child who is intellectually disabled, who has got poor intellectual functioning, we learn this about this through his behavior, and the behavior need to be reinforced by using different kind of principles. The one important aspect is that children learn to develop.
जी।
The learning is from the core aspect of development. That is why learning has to be facilitated. Now we talk about ABC, the antecedent and behavior and the consequences. Antecedents are those, the people around, the environment in which the behavior occurs. We have to create a situation in which the behavior will occur. For instance, toilet is a situation for toileting. Toilet creates a particular environment in which a person defecates. If the toilet is not good, people do not defecate. Children do have this problem. If it is stinking, they don't go to that toilet. They feel like defecating outside. That you find with some children.
जी.
So this toileting habit gets affected because of the kind of environment that you have provided to the child. Development of toileting habit depends on availability of good toilets, or even the kind of reinforcement and punishment that you give after the person defecates or urinates. So this is also, this same principle can be applied for number of other kinds of behaviors. The child starts reading. If the letters are not properly printed, the child cannot read it properly. So the kind of instruction material that you are preparing, that also sustains the behavior. We have studied children who are underprivileged. We have found that the kind of textbooks which are being given to them, the textbooks do not do not have good prints.
जी.
When we put it on audiovisuals, they learn it better. Same kind of text. When the text is put on the monitor, they learn better because it is colorful. It gives sound.
बच्चे को उसमें इंटरेस्ट डेवलप
The child himself operates and gets a feedback out of it.
जी.
We talk nowadays a lot about programmed instruction. The instruction that generates some kind of reinforcement or some kind of response after a behavior is performed. For instance, if the child performs correctly, it says good boy, well done, the computer says. And when he doesn't perform properly, the computer says no, you haven't done it properly.
जी.
You failed. So there is a failure signal. From this signal, the child learn how to perform well in this. This is a part of, this is also known as computer assisted instruction, in which behavioral principles are heavily used
जी.
to reinforce the children to learn better.
उनको एक फीडबैक भी मिलता रहता है
मिलता रहता है, ऑटोमेटेड फीडबैक मिलता रहता है. There are beautifully, in the West they have prepared toilets in such a way that if a person defecates or urinates, it gives a signal. The child learns that it is properly being used. Automatically it comes.
जी.
Similarly, and there are many tasks which are very complex for the child. The child fails to understand, fails to work on those tasks, perform the task properly because of the very fact that they are complex. In those cases, the task has to be divided into smaller units called teachable units, which you can teach easily one after another. You can think of a skill which is very difficult for the child is finding too difficult to handle that skill. You can think of how to break it to different small parts and teach them one after another.
Like we have different activities of daily living, ADL.
Yes,
तो
yes.
उसमें हम देखते हैं कि जैसे ड्रेसिंग है तो ड्रेसिंग में होता है कि बटनिंग अनबटनिंग होता है. तो अगर हमें बच्चे को सिखाना है तो उसमें हम एक टास्क को लेके उसकी एक्टिविटीज़ को डिवाइड कर सकते हैं और टास्क एनालिसिस से हम बच्चे को सिखा सकते हैं.
So task analysis without using this technicality in this.
जी.
A task has to be divided into teachable units so that the child can pick up the activities
easily.
properly.
जी.
Now when the task is small, he can learn it easily and it can be reinforced immediately. One after another, if he learns one task, he can chain with another task. This process is known as chaining.
जी.
Chaining can be forward and backward also.
जी.
For instance, if he is learning buttoning, initially he has to pick up that the shirt or pant, whatever he is using, and use the button. And if it is completed, it is reinforced, the child learns how to do it. And gradually you can go on to the next task, and finally the child learns how to use a shirt or a pant, how to button or unbutton.
जी.
So buttoning can be taught using forward chaining as well as backward chaining. Similarly, unbuttoning can also be taught by using forward and backward chaining. Chaining is used in number of ways in teaching very complex skills for the child.
जी.
Similarly, there are some children who do not learn solely from chaining. They have to show some kind of modeling. One has to show how to do it. Now the problem is that a normal child learns very easily when you show some kind of activity to the child. A child with intellectual disability do not learn it properly. This may be because of the very fact that he has got poor sensory capabilities to understand the situation, understand the task properly. In that case, what is necessary is that the task should be designed in such a manner that it should be sensorially reinforcing. For instance, small ABC the child cannot write, but if you show a big A, the child can imitate it better.
जी.
In our general prints, we have got small prints for normal school children, for general school children. For a child with intellectual disability, you need to have, you may require a bigger print or colorful print to make him learn better.
जी.
You may use other sensory modalities to teach the same skill by using tactile elements. You can use auditory elements by giving some kind of sound, giving some kind of tactile experiences, so that the child can hold it and learn.
मतलब एक्टिविटीज ऐसी दे जो मल्टी सेंसोरियल
Exactly, multisensory,
सेंसेस का
yes,
हम यूज
yes.
करके हम बच्चे को बहुत अच्छे से फैसिलिटेट कर सकते हैं लर्निंग को.
देखिए एप्पल, वो जो ऑर्डिनरी बच्चा होता है, जो आम बच्चा होता है, वो एक किताब से देख के एप्पल को एप्पल के हिसाब से सोच लेता है. लेकिन बच्चा जिसको इंटेलेक्चुअल डिसेबिलिटी है, ही शुड नो व्हाट एप्पल इज.
उसको तो सिखाना हम
He has to
पड़ेगा.
be shown what apple is,
जी.
so that he can learn it better. So like this, the environment has to be made in such so stimulating that the child can learn, feel comfortable in that environment to acquire things better.
अब जैसे हम इन एक्टिविटीज़ की बात करें, अगर हम नॉर्मल बच्चों की बात करते हैं तो उसमें अगर हम एक्टिविटी ले लेते हैं ब्रशिंग की, ठीक है, तो ब्रशिंग में अगर हम देखते हैं कि हमें सुबह उठ के करना है या रात को करना है, तो ये जो एक नॉर्मल बच्चा है वो सीख जाता है देखते ही. इमिटेटिव लर्निंग उसकी काफ़ी अच्छी होती है. बट अगर हम इंटेलेक्चुअल डिसेबिलिटी के उसमें कॉन्टेक्स्ट में बात करते हैं, ऐसे बच्चों को हमें बताना होगा कि ब्रशिंग हमें किस टाइम करनी चाहिए, इट शुड बी टाइम अप्रोप्रिएट एंड हाउ इट शुड बी डन.
Sometimes we talk about stimulus control. Earlier I said that inappropriate stimulus control. जिस स्टिमुलस के प्रति जिस व्यवहार होना चाहिए वो व्यवहार नहीं हो पा रहा है, तो हम कहेंगे इनएप्रोप्रिएट स्टिमुलस कंट्रोल. आप देखे होंगे कभी कभी इन द इंस्टीट्यूशंस फॉर द मेंटली हैंडीकैप्ड, इंटेलेक्चुअली डिसेबल्ड, व्हेन विजिटर्स कम, चिल्ड्रन गो एंड स्नीप देयर हैंड्स, स्नीप देयर क्लोथ्स, दे कम क्लोजर, व्हिच इज इनएप्रोप्रिएट बिहेवियर. इट मीन्स जब स्ट्रेंजर आते हैं, इस व्यवहार दिखाने से हम कहते हैं कि दिस बिहेवियर इज इनएप्रोप्रिएट.
जी.
और इसको हम थोड़ा टेक्निकली कहते हैं इनएप्रोप्रिएट स्टिमुलस कंट्रोल. दिस स्टिमुलस is giving different kind of control, eliciting different kind of behavior in this particular child. Why it happens? Because the child is not exposed to these kind of people time and again. He has no exposure to people around, this kind of people. That is why he shows an extra interest in these people and he shows some kind of behaviors. Now, every stimulus exerts some kind of control on us. The chair on which we are sitting, the kind of books which you are using, the kind of activities that we do on certain objects, those objects do control our behaviors. So in this complex world, we are controlled by number of things around us. They form our personalities, in fact. They form our behavioral patterns, and accordingly we behave. When you go to wash your hand near a wash basin, the wash basin without telling you teaches you how to use it.
जी.
Isn't it? When you go and wash,
जी.
suppose the tap is something like this, is a longer one, you have to use your hand in a different way. If it is something like a pressing one, you have to use a different kind of skill. Looking at that, you change your behavior, and that is called stimulus control.
And we learn that behavior from
Exactly.
that
Yes,
environment.
Yes. When you are holding a pencil, you are holding in a different manner. When you are holding a brush, that you are using in a different manner. Holding a brush and holding a pencil, there is a difference because they have already exerted some kind of stimulus control. And this stimulus control is inbuilt in us. We have learned. Our behavioral repertoire has acquired this behavior.
This is the neurological processing that
Exactly.
happens.
Neurological, even behavioral processing.
जी.
So this we are more, what you say, we are aware of it. That what kind of behavior we are going to exert in a particular kind of situation. The kind of behavior that we exhibit is determined by the kind of situation in which we are. So in a sense, we can say our environment, our people, and the situation around us is to teach how we behave in that condition. And this learning is poor in intellectually disabled people because it is not programmed properly. So for a parent, for a teacher, for any people who are working with mentally handicapped, even those who are not working with mentally handicapped, जिनको कहते हैं आम आदमी, person on the street, can always use this kind of principles to teach people. Applied behavior analysis can be taught to anybody easily, so that he can manipulate the environment adequately, monitor the environment adequately to get a proper response, and that can be used for the children with intellectual disability as well.
जी सर, जैसे कि ये आपने प्रिंसिपल्स हमें कुछ बताए एग्जांपल्स के साथ कि हमें ये कैसे फॉलो करना चाहिए, जैसे हमारे कुछ टाइप के बिहेवियर्स होते हैं, जैसे इन टर्म्स वी कैन से द बिहेवियर विच आर सेल्फ इंजूरियस एंड द बिहेवियर्स विच आर इंजूरियस टू अदर्स. तो उसमें आप क्या कहेंगे कि मतलब हमें किस तरीके से ऐसे बिहेवियर को डील करना चाहिए? मान लीजिए एक बच्चा है, उसका ऐसा बिहेवियर है कि दैट इज़ इंजूरियस टू हिमसेल्फ एंड द अदर चाइल्ड हु इज़ हैविंग द बिहेवियर विच इज़ इंजूरियस टू अदर्स, ही इज़ हिटिंग अदर्स और हेड बैंगिंग लाइक दिस. तो how we should deal with these kind of behaviors?
These are very difficult kind of behaviors. Sometimes children use these behaviors to get some kind of reinforcement from the environment. The child who is banging his head don't think that he is getting pain always. By using this behavior, he gets number of things which he cannot get otherwise. I have seen children who used to have severe head bangings, and when I tried to test their sensation of pain on the forehead, I found that they don't have adequate pain sensation. Even if there is a prick, they don't feel that prick, because the head is used number of times for that.
So that means the sensitivity to the senses
yes, he
is
gets
less.
a stimulation out of head banging, although we feel that probably he is getting pain. Sometimes he doesn't get pain, he gets stimulation out of it. This is one thing. It means neurologically that area has become much inactive.
जी.
That is why he tries to get some kind of stimulation by using head banging. Sometimes when children are put in unstimulating environment, for instance institutions in which children do not have any kind of reinforcement, any kind of play activities, they engage in number of this kind of self-stimulating activities, and this may go to the extent of self-injury. And self-injury has to be inhibited, has to be controlled by any means, by controlling the child physically, by using behavioral principles. Now, what is reinforcement? Reinforcement is anything that increases the probability of occurrence of a behavior, as I told you. It need not be a chocolate. It may be anything. If you find that it is increasing,
that is motivating the
for
child.
instance, mother is not coming, is not delivering food, the child starts banging his head.
जी.
Now, not coming to deliver this kind of food, that itself can be reinforcer for this. But one has to find out how to control it. Sometimes children engage in number of aggressive behaviors, and to attract attention of people. And if attention is not given, what happens? The behavior increases. Under that situation, what people usually do is they give whatever the children want. The behavior gets enforced. Now, this behavior has to be ignored to some extent to see that the behavior doesn't occur again. And if you are attending to this behavior while ignoring because you are not able to tolerate it, in that case the behavior may enhance, may get increased. This is known as extinction burst. Extinction means nirbapan. The behavior has to subside because of lack of reinforcement. Sometimes we fail to do that because the child engages in this kind of behavior more rigorously, more vigorously to get reinforcement, get attention, and sometimes they become successful in doing this. So one has to wait to see that this behavior doesn't subsides completely. The child will look at you and start doing some kind of behaviors which will draw your attention. So you need to see that you are patiently waiting till the behavior declines. Sometimes when a person bangs his head, right, does self-injury, certain parts of the body are involved. For instance, head banging involves this kind of movement. If this movement itself continues for a longer period of time, which is known as mass practice, the behavior doesn't occur anymore for a prolonged period of time. Next 2 hours, 3 hours, he will not have head banging if his head is moved vigorously in that particular situation without hitting. This is known as mass practice. So, this kind of techniques can be used in many situations where children show disruptive behavior, children show repetitive behaviors which are known as stereotyped behaviors, behavior occurring number of times without any reason. There may be a reason hidden in that they may be getting reinforcement because of social attention, maybe because of sensory reinforcement, sensory stimulation. When we move our head, we get stimulation from within our from the inside, from the body. This kind of interoceptive stimulation maintains the movement of the body. The stereotyped behavior occurs because of this reason also. In order to avoid that, you keep on moving the particular body part, then the behavior will decline. So, autism reversal training is also used quite extensively to reduce this kind of behavior. That also involves similar kind of principles. If a child is slapping his face, then this movement is continued vigorously so that the behavior will stop. This is a kind of exercise which can be done whenever you see this kind of behavior is going to occur. Now, what is most important is to find out when the child is going to slap his face. So, before slapping his face, maybe that he will have a posture, he will have a kind of movement that movement has to be detected at the earliest so
That
that this can be
means
prevented.
जैसे आपने ABC एक मॉडल बताया था, उसमें हमें A को फाइंड आउट करने के किस सिचुएशन में बच्चा खुद को स्लैप करता है,
हाँ.
और बिहेवियर इज द चाइल्ड इज स्लैपिंग हिमसेल्फ,
Yes.
और उसका फिर क्या कॉन्सिक्वेंस है?
Consequences, yes. And if he can, if he can be prevented, he can learn how to adapt
जी.
to that situation.
जी.
Sometimes when children get frustrated, they start doing slapping to self. They start injuring others. They start showing a lot of behavioral problems. But without showing behavioral problems, they can get many things by just asking for those things. This habit formation can be reversed by using different kind of strategies for reinforcement and punishment. Sometimes these children are severely punished. These children, when they are severely punished, they do not learn anything. Punishment doesn't teach you anything. Therefore, you have to teach good behavior so that they can acquire, they can develop their behaviors instead of just suppressing them.
जी.
The other issue is that there is a spillover effect when you use punishment. If one behavior is punished severely, another few behaviors which are occurring at the same time or maybe occurring in proximity, those behaviors also subside because of the punishment, because there is a spillover effect from one behavior to the other. If the child is slapped, is punished very badly in the class, he may come back to his home and may not do the usual activity because of that punishment. Severe is the punishment, severe will be its effect on the other behaviors which will be occurring proximally to that behavior. One has to be very conscious about this. Punishment should be very minimal so that it will not have a spillover effect.
Sir, जैसे we are continuously talking about the reinforcements and the punishment. जैसे कि आपने लगातार इसके एग्जांपल्स दिए कि किस तरीके से हम रीइंफोर्स कर सकते हैं बच्चे को और पनिशमेंट दे सकते हैं. इसमें एक जैसे टर्म होता है, हम रिवॉर्ड्स देते हैं बच्चे को, प्राइमरी रिवॉर्ड देते हैं, सेकेंडरी रिवॉर्ड, ऐसे टर्म्स यूज़ किए जाते हैं. तो इज़ देयर एनी डिफरेंस बिटवीन द रीइंफोर्समेंट्स एंड द रिवॉर्ड्स?
Oh, of course, there are. In our day-to-day usage, we use reinforcers and reward in an interchangeable manner. Reinforcers are those which increase the probability of occurrence of a behavior, whereas rewards may not. You reward a child, next time he may not do that behavior. A child बड़ा अच्छा कर रहा है, काम कर रहा है, उसको आपने चॉकलेट दे दिया, child खुश होकर चला गया, and next time he may not come and sit there to perform the same activity. This is reward. You have rewarded the child for some good activity, but there is no guarantee that this will continue. But when it guarantees that the behavior will continue to occur with high rate, then we consider that it is acting as not as a just reward but a reinforcer. So, reinforcer will certainly improve the probability of occurrence of a behavior. जो 2 बार हो रहा था वो 4 बार होने का संभावना बढ़ जाता है.
तो इसका मतलब हमें बच्चे की लाइकिंग्स को बहुत अच्छे से ध्यान में रखना है कि ऐसा हमें मतलब बच्चे को पॉजिटिव स्टिमुलेशन देना कि वो रिवॉर्ड नहीं रीइंफोर्समेंट की तरह काम करे.
अच्छा, आम आदमी के साथ बात आप यू टॉक टू एनीबडी, दे विल से दैट वी आल्सो कीप ऑन गिविंग दिस, but how you do it, that is important. Whether you are giving a reinforcer, whether you are giving a reward, that has to be properly understood.
It should be qualitative, not quantitative.
The child may be liking something, but it may not have any effect on his behavior. You give something which will bring some change in the behavior and just not liking or disliking. That is a mentalistic thing. You like something, then you forget about it. You like something and keep on doing that activity repeatedly. That is the difference. That is the difference which is maintained between reinforcement and reward. And one has to be very careful about this in choosing this kind of consequences for the children. Sometimes we give so much of reward that the child doesn't want any more reward of that kind. In that case, the child reaches a saturation point which is known as satiation. At that point, even reward may be a punisher. लड्डू 2-3 खाने के बाद 4-5 जब आप दे रहे हैं, 4th और 5th जब दे रहे हैं, a person may dislike it.
बच्चे का एक stagnation point हो गया कि मतलब वो reward उसको पसंद नहीं है.
And if you go beyond, this will act as a punisher.
जी. So there is a difference between reward and reinforcement. जैसे कि हमारे एक्सपर्ट ने बताया कि हम reinforce करते हैं बच्चे को एक continuous stimulation देने के लिए ताकि उसका एक long term effect रहे. और हमने देखा कि अप्लाइड बिहेवियर एनालिसिस में किस तरीके से हम बिहेवियर को मैनेज कर सकते हैं यूजिंग डिफरेंट प्रिंसिपल्स एंड हाउ वी कैन अप्लाई देम इन डिफरेंट सिचुएशंस. वी विल बी डिस्कसिंग मोर अबाउट दिस आफ्टर दिस शॉर्ट ब्रेक.
हम होंगे कामयाब, हम होंगे कामयाब, हम होंगे कामयाब एक दिन। ओ मन में है विश्वास, पूरा है विश्वास, हम होंगे कामयाब एक दिन। We shall overcome, we shall overcome, we shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe that we shall overcome someday. We shall overcome someday. We shall overcome someday.
ऑटिज्म एक व्यापक विकासात्मक विकलांगता है जिसके लक्षण जीवन के प्रथम 3 वर्ष में ही दिखाई पड़ते हैं, जैसे असंगत खेल, असमान स्थूल एवं सूक्ष्म गामक क्रियाएं, शाब्दिक संकेतों पर अभिव्यक्ति न देना,
Where is the cup? देखो, open your eyes, open करो, open करके, open.
नियमित कार्यक्रम परिवर्तन का विरोध करना एवं अवलोकनीय शारीरिक उच्च स्तरीय या निम्न स्तरीय क्रियाकलाप। UNCRPD 2007 सेक्शन 1 ऑफ आर्टिकल 4 निशक्तता के क्षेत्र में कार्यरत प्रोफेशनल के प्रशिक्षण पर महत्व देता है। ऑटिज्म के क्षेत्र में सरकारी एवं गैर सरकारी संस्थाएं कार्यरत हैं, जो भारतीय पुनर्वास परिषद द्वारा पंजीकृत हैं। सोसाइटी फॉर एडवांस स्टडी इन रिहैबिलिटेशन एक ऐसी ही गैर सरकारी संस्था है। कनिष्क 13 साल का एक ऑटिस्टिक बच्चा है जो इसी संस्था से प्रशिक्षण प्राप्त कर रहा है। असंगत क्रियाएं, कार्यकलापों में निरस्ता, असमान स्थूल एवं सूक्ष्म गामक क्रियाएं जैसे बॉडी रॉकिंग और फिंगर रिगलिंग उसमें देखी जा सकती है। उसे मैचिंग और पेस्टिंग, पॉइंटिंग जैसी क्रियाएं सिखाई जाती हैं।
Very good. Glass. Where is the glass? जो खाली बैग है। Glass. Very good. कप को टच करो जल्दी से। कप को। Where is the cup? Very good. कप में क्या करता है कनिष्क? टी पीता है। चलो ग्लास। Where is the glass? Very good. चलो बाउल की तरह, बाउल जल्दी से टच करो बाउल को। Very good. बाउल में क्या करता है कनिष्क?
तथा साथ ही साथ रोजमर्रा की आवश्यकताएं जैसे खाना, पीना, कपड़े पहनना, और व्यायाम संबंधी प्रशिक्षण दिया जाता है। ऑटिस्टिक बच्चों को भिन्न भिन्न प्रकार की कार्यविधियां उनके स्तर के अनुसार सिखाई जाती हैं, जैसे कुछ बच्चों के लिए कलरिंग विद इन वन एरिया, मैचिंग एंड आइडेंटिफिकेशन, फाइन मोटर स्किल्स, आई हैंड कोऑर्डिनेशन, कंसेप्ट ऑफ वेजिटेबल्स, फ्रूट्स, बॉडी पार्ट्स, कलर्स पर जोर दिया जाता है तथा कुछ को प्रश्न पढ़ के उत्तर देने में और रोजमर्रा की आवश्यकताओं को पूरा करने में सक्षम बनाया जाता है। इसके अलावा राइम्स, डांसिंग, सिंगिंग द्वारा लेजर एंड रिक्रिएशनल एक्टिविटीज में भाग लेने के लिए प्रोत्साहित किया जाता है। इन सभी कार्यकलापों एवं प्रशिक्षण का एकमात्र उद्देश्य उन्हें स्वनिर्भर बनाना है, ताकि ये डगमगाते पांव सक्षम बन जीवन के एक एक पायदान पर दृढ़ता से आगे बढ़ें और अपनी मंजिल को पा लें। एक तारा टिमटिमाता, उसने आकाश को छू लिया। एक लौ जली कहीं, उसने अंधकार को मिटा दिया।
वेलकम बैक टू आवर डिस्कशन। अभी तक हमने अपने डिस्कशन में हमने डिस्कस किया अपने एक्सपर्ट के साथ कि बिहेवियर एनालिसिस में हम किन तरह के मॉडल्स को यूज़ कर सकते हैं, जिसमें हमारे एक्सपर्ट ने बताया ABC मॉडल के बारे में। ABC का था A फॉर एंटीसीडेंट, B फॉर बिहेवियर एंड C फॉर कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस। And we have to find out, or we can say a professional has to find out कि in what condition, in what situation a child show a problem behavior, what kind of problem behavior he is showing, and what are the different consequences he is facing or the immediate family members or peer group is facing। ये हमने डिस्कस किया और इसके हमने एग्जाम्पल्स देखे कि डिफरेंट एक्टिविटीज़ में ये कैसे इंटरफेयर करता है और हमें इस बिहेवियर को किन प्रिंसिपल्स को फॉलो करते हुए हमें मैनेज करना है। तो आइए डिस्कशन को आगे बढ़ाते हैं और जानते हैं कि रीइंफोर्स करने के लिए जो अभी तक हमने टेक्निक्स यूज़ करी, इनके साथ साथ एडिशन में और कौन सी टेक्निक्स हो सकती हैं फॉर द लॉन्ग टर्म आउटपुट ऑफ ए मैनेजमेंट ऑफ बिहेवियर ऑफ ए चाइल्ड।
अभी हमने बात किया था रीइंफोर्समेंट के बारे में बात कर रहे थे। रीइंफोर्सर, one should always expect that the reinforcer will be given by people, other people. We should create an environment in which the person himself can reinforce his behavior, and that will be the best situation that we can expect. A child who is doing well, who has done his homework, if he reinforces himself by taking a chocolate which is kept somewhere, nothing can be better than that. He cannot wait for a teacher or for a parent to give reinforcement. If he learns how to reinforce himself, he gets a good drink, cold drink after he does some kind of activities. If he himself can, initiate this kind of activity, the behavior can be maintained, can be retained. So this is known as self-reinforcement, and it is found that many children suffering from intellectual disability can reinforce themselves. Always don't consider them to be so bad that they cannot reinforce themselves. Studies have been conducted with children who are with a bit of mild mental retardation can reinforce themselves. You say that you do this activity, now you sit and write A, B, C for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, then you go and take a cup of tea or coffee which is kept somewhere. So he himself will go and serve himself. He will have a chocolate, he will have something to reinforce himself. And not only that, he will learn this behavior in a particular situation. You ask him to generalize it. When you do this, then after that you do this. You create your own study environment. You go and sit there, see that lights are on. You are sitting at one place, your books are properly arranged, then you open your notebook and start writing. You take your play materials and sit in that particular room, and after your play is over, you come to mummy and talk to her. Coming to mummy and talking to her is a great reinforcer for the child. And the mummy reinforces. But he shouldn't wait that the mummy will come and reinforce the activity which he is doing. If this happens, then nothing can be better than this. This behavior can be naturally maintained and can be strengthened. Reinforcement means strengthening a behavior. We talk about reinforced concrete, the concrete which has been reinforced by using some kind of instrument, some kind of activity. So behavior which is not occurring properly, occurring infrequently, is not properly solidified, not being strengthened, that is being strengthened by using this particular principle, so that it will have a high probability that it will occur whenever we expect it to occur. So the probability increases. And this individual who is under treatment, under care, under instruction can himself serve as a very good reinforcer for himself. This is applicable for any individual who wants to improve his behavior. And when the child learns this technique well, he can use it in other situations also. So always our aim should be to see that he becomes independent in sustaining his behavior. and probably parents, teachers should be taught about this, should be told about this. We are talking nowadays about a model which is known as triadic model. 3 people are involved in this, 3 agents are involved in this. One is the child to whom you are giving some kind of ABA treatment, some kind of applied behavior analysis treatment, and the person who does it, and the therapist or the specialist who is monitoring it. The role of a specialist is not like the role of a doctor who treats a patient. The therapist treats the child through another individual, a mediator who spends a lot of time with the child. You cannot expect a child to come to your institution or to come to your clinical setting where he will be taught activities of daily living, because activities of daily living occurs in the home setting. If you want to reinforce that behavior, you have to train the parents.
पहले बताया कि जैसे इग्नोरेंस होती है, एक्सटेंशन होती है, इस तरह की स्ट्रैटेजीज हम यूज़ करते हैं. अगर मान लीजिए एक होम सेटिंग में मतलब एक फैमिली बैठी हुई है एंड दे आर डिस्कसिंग समथिंग, दे आर टॉकिंग टू ईच अदर एंड द चाइल्ड इज क्रिएटिंग प्रॉब्लम एंड द चाइल्ड इज शोइंग सम काइंड ऑफ अनप्लेजेंट बिहेवियर इन दैट सिचुएशन. और उस केस में फिर हम क्या करेंगे कि जैसे कि वो बिहेवियर है, अगर पेरेंट्स ने उनको कह दिया कि आप रूम से बाहर चले जाओ और बच्चे को वही पसंद है बाहर जाना, तो वो तो उसके लिए जो उसको पनिशमेंट दिया दैट विल एक्ट एज अ रिवॉर्ड for that child. So in that case what we can do?
There are many situations from which the child can learn also. For instance, there is a talk going on. The child can learn a lot how we reciprocate our emotions, how we put across our ideas, how we interact with other people. He can learn. The child can be brought to that situation and made to sit and watch what kind of talk is going on and how people are behaving in that situation. If the child comes and sits there, he can pick up a lot of behaviors which are being demonstrated, being shown by the adults. These adult behaviors can be readily picked up by the child and child can exhibit these behaviors. Interaction can be learned in this kind of situation. You cannot think of a situation in which 5 people will come and talk artificially and the child will learn. So when a natural talk is going on, the child should be given opportunity to watch, see how the interaction is going on.
मतलब बच्चे को इन्वॉल्व करना है हमें नेचुरली, उसके लिए जानकर एक क्रिएट नहीं करनी है सिचुएशन.
जैसे कि एक आर्टिफिशियल सिचुएशन आपने क्रिएट कर लिया, द चाइल्ड बिकम्स वेरी कॉन्शियस अबाउट इट. ए क्लासरूम द चाइल्ड बिकम्स वेरी कॉन्शियस, बट एट होम द चाइल्ड इज एट ईज टू लर्न थिंग्स. तो जब बात कर रहे हैं, कभी कभी पेरेंट्स ऐसे करते हैं कि बच्चों को अलग रखते हैं जी, बड़ा भाई बहन के साथ रख देते हैं, अरे मेहमान आए हैं, यू डोंट ब्रिंग हिम हियर. बट मेहमान जब आते हैं, बात करते हैं, इन चीज़ों को देख के बच्चा बहुत सारी चीज़ सीख सकता है. और इस शिक्षण का जो वातावरण, जो एनवायरनमेंट, इस एनवायरनमेंट से बच्चों को डिप्राइव नहीं करना चाहिए. हम कहते हैं कि लीस्ट रेस्ट्रिक्टिव एनवायरनमेंट. एनवायरनमेंट शुड बी लीस्ट रेस्ट्रिक्टिव. रेस्ट्रिक्शन इसके ऊपर नहीं होना चाहिए जहाँ पर लर्निंग होता है. एंड इफ यू आर कीपिंग द चाइल्ड अवे फ्रॉम दैट एनवायरनमेंट, द चाइल्ड विल नेवर लर्न दिस काइंड ऑफ बिहेवियर्स. एंड बिकॉज ऑफ कीपिंग देम अवे फ्रॉम द लर्निंग एनवायरनमेंट, वी मेक देम मोर एंड मोर रिटार्डेड. So a vicious cycle occurs because of the ignorance of the parents, ignorance of the class teachers, ignorance of people who are working around, performing or interacting with the child. So this is a part of education, this is a part of training, and all of us should know while learning, while interacting with people suffering from not only intellectual disability but other forms of disability also. And many children learn, as I told you, vicariously, just by watching how people behave. This watching, this opportunity is very important opportunity. A child should not be deprived of it. Sometimes you may ask the child whether are you able to understand what they are saying. He is saying like this. Auntie is talking about this. Uncle is talking about this. So we are talking about this. Sometimes children fail to make out what adults are talking about. If the child is 5-year-old and they are talking about marriage and other things, the child may not be able to understand what it is. You can explain to him. He is talking about marriage at so and so. And auntie has come to discuss about it. So auntie is saying like this. So this can be explained. You can give commentaries, you can talk to the child, you can keep him in between. He can be a center of attraction also when this kind of discussion going on. He may be asked to ask questions also. Auntie sahi bol rahi hai? You ask auntie. So he can be taken in a much positive manner if he is there in that particular environment instead of keeping the child aside. So by doing this, probably we are doing greater harm to the child.
So we should give proper reinforcement, not the rewards to the children, to get the long term effect and to make the child motivated and encouraged. जैसे कि हमारे एक्सपर्ट ने बताया कि किस तरीके से हमें पनिशमेंट भी देनी है, बट इट शुड बी टू द लिमिटेड एक्सटेंट, ताकि उसका एक नेगेटिव इफेक्ट ना पड़े बच्चे पे। और हमें रीइंफोर्स करना है बच्चे को, और रीइंफोर्स उसके इंटरेस्ट का होना चाहिए, इट्स शुड बी अकॉर्डिंग टू द सिचुएशन, और जो बच्चे को पसंद हो हमें उस तरह का देना चाहिए। सर जैसे ये हमने बात करी थी कुछ टर्म्स की जो आपने एक्सप्लेन किया, रीइंफोर्समेंट, रिवॉर्ड्स एंड द एंटीसीडेंट बिहेवियर कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस। विद द स्टार्टिंग ऑफ आवर डिस्कशन आपने बात करी थी एक एक्सेस बिहेवियर एंड डेफिसिट बिहेवियर की, तो हम उसके बारे में और जानना चाहेंगे कि क्या कौन कौन से बिहेवियर होते हैं जो इंक्लूडेड होते हैं एक्सेस बिहेवियर में और कौन से डेफिसिट बिहेवियर में।
अप्लाइड बिहेवियर एनालिसिस में हम ये कहते हैं कि द बिहेवियर शुड बी डायग्नोज्ड by using behavioral principles. In that context, we talk about behavioral diagnosis, in which the focus is on excessive, deficit, and those which are due to inappropriate stimulus control. Excessive behaviors are those which are occurring with high rate, जो rate में हम expect नहीं करते हैं.
जी.
Somebody is smoking. If he is smoking once or twice, it is also bad, of course. But if a person is smoking throughout, person is drinking a lot, drinking once or twice is somehow acceptable. Of drinking a lot, that is not acceptable. A behavior, body rocking can occur once or twice. Even we do have body rocking when there are pleasurable, kind of situation. But body rocking, if it is continuous for a longer period of time, we say this is a stereotyped behavior which is not acceptable. Child keep on moving around, but if moving around is quite a lot, then we say it is hyperactivity. It's not just activity, it is hyperactivity. बच्चे तो ऐसे घूमते रहते हैं, बट इतना ज़्यादा घूमना, चेयर छोड़ के चले जाना, काम नहीं करना, एक जगह में ज़्यादा नहीं बैठना, देर तक नहीं बैठना, दैट शोज काइंड ऑफ एक्सेसिव बिहेवियर।
इसका मतलब कि एक बिहेवियर जो लंबे समय तक कंटिन्यू रहे,
इन टर्म्स ऑफ ड्यूरेशन, इन टर्म्स ऑफ फ्रीक्वेंसी, इन टर्म्स ऑफ इंटेंसिटी, तीनों चीज़ों को देखना पड़ता है। दिस इज 3 डायमेंशंस ऑफ बिहेवियर। कितना देर तक हो रहा है, कितना बार हो रहा है, और कितना जोर से हो रहा है।
जी जी।
कोई बच्चा दूसरे बच्चे को थोड़ा सा ऐसे टीच कर देता है, ऐसे कर देता है, दैट ऑकर्स विद चिल्ड्रन। But if he is going and beating the child, then it is, even if it is occurring once, we call it excessive behavior, because the intensity of this interaction is much higher than what is expected. सिर्फ वो बात नहीं कर रहा है, बहुत loudly बात कर रहा है. Even if he does it once, we say that oh something wrong with the child. इतना जोर से चिल्ला के बात करना जरूरत नहीं है. इतना जोर से मार दिया, धीरे से ऐसे बोल देता है उसको, धीरे से कुछ कर देता है, लेकिन he should not have done like this. So this is because of the intensity, the behavior is considered to be excessive. डेफिसिट जो बिहेवियर होना चाहिए, पर्टिकुलर उम्र में बिहेवियर होना चाहिए, वो बिहेवियर नहीं हो पा रहा है। एडीएल जो कहते हैं, सब डेफिसिट बिहेवियर्स होता है कि बच्चों को खुद खाना चाहिए, खुद अपना बटनिंग करना चाहिए, अपना काम करना चाहिए, कर नहीं पाते हैं। दीज आर डेफिसिट बिहेवियर। इन मेंटली रिटार्डेड चिल्ड्रन लॉट ऑफ बिहेवियर्स आर कैरेक्टराइज्ड एज डेफिसिट बिहेवियर्स, और इनको डेवलप करवाना है तो जो बिहेवियर ऑलरेडी थोड़ा अप्रोप्रिएट लेवल पर हो रहा है, उस बिहेवियर को भी रिइंफोर्स करना चाहिए जी। And many of these behaviors are deficient because of punishment minded. Punishment may reduce not only one behavior, as I told you earlier, may have spillover effect. If it occurs at an early stage of life, जहाँ पर व्यवहार डेवलप होना चाहिए, उस स्टेज पर हम पनिशमेंट ज़्यादा देंगे तो दूसरे व्यवहार के ऊपर इसका बुरा प्रभाव पड़ सकता है। इसलिए डेवलपमेंटल स्टेज जो कहते हैं ना, 18 ईयर्स एज के अंदर बिहेवियर का पूरा डेवलपमेंट होना चाहिए, इंटेलिजेंस का पूरा डेवलपमेंट होना चाहिए। इसके बाद एक प्लेटस आ जाता है, एक स्थितावस्था आ जाता है। इंटेलिजेंस का और ग्रोथ नहीं होता है, लेकिन स्किल का डेवलपमेंट हो सकता है। ए पर्सन कैन लर्न बेटर म्यूजिक, better singing, but his overall intellectual capacity may not grow after 18 years of age. He can perform very well in specific areas of activity.
मतलब एक डेवलपमेंटल पीरियड के अंदर हमें बच्चे का पूरा विकास बहुत जरूरी है।
The speed, the efficiency, right? These aspects of behavior can grow, can be shown very well in terms of general development, general intellectual functioning. After that, you may show this kind of changes in specific aspects of behavior, not in general behaviors.
सर जैसे ये तो बात करी हमने बिहेवियर्स की और एक्सेस बिहेवियर और डेफिसिट बिहेवियर के, हम उसके बारे में हम बात कर रहे हैं। अगर हम एक क्लासरूम सिचुएशन की बात करते हैं तो उसमें एक टीचर का क्या रोल प्ले करता है? व्हाट इज़ द रोल ऑफ अ टीचर एंड हाउ डज इट प्ले एन इम्पॉर्टेंट रोल इन finding out the behavior problem or we can say in managing that behavior problem?
टीचर पर्टिकुलरली जो टीचर्स काम करते हैं इंटेलेक्चुअली डिसेबल्ड बच्चों के साथ, इनका रोल, इनका जो भूमिका बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है, इसलिए कि नॉट ओनली दैट दे टेक केयर ऑफ द intellectual activity like reading, writing, other academic activities, but also they take care of other ADL activities, activities of daily living activities. They teach number of skills which they should have learned in the home setting. हमारे जो बच्चे जो इंटेलेक्चुअल एवरेज बच्चे घर पे बहुत सारी चीज़ कर लेते हैं, सीख लेते हैं, एंड व्हेन दे गो टू द स्कूल दे लर्न वेरी स्पेसिफिक एस्पेक्ट्स ऑफ एकेडमिक्स. ऑफ कोर्स देयर आर वाइड वेराइटी ऑफ एक्टिविटीज़, बट इनके लिए एक्टिविटीज़ और ज़्यादा हो जाता है क्योंकि वो सीख नहीं पाते हैं जितना सीखना है उनको घर पर, इसलिए उनका भूमिका बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है. दे शुड लर्न, दे शुड नो डिफरेंट एस्पेक्ट्स ऑफ अप्लाइड बिहेवियर एनालिसिस टू अप्लाई इट प्रॉपर्ली. स्कूल एनवायरनमेंट में उनको बच्चों को खाना सिखाना पड़ता है, हाउ टू ईट, हाउ टू ड्रिंक, हाउ टू मूव, ऑल दिस थिंग्स दे आर टू बी टॉट इन द क्लासरूम सेटिंग, स्पेशल क्लासरूम सेटिंग. और सबसे महत्वपूर्ण है कि कभी कभी इन बच्चों को लेके मेन स्ट्रीमिंग भी उनको करना पड़ता है, टेकिंग देम आउट, टेकिंग देम थ्रू नॉर्मल एवरेज चिल्ड्रन, intellectual average children, making them interact with other people, with other significant members of the society. तो इसलिए this particular approach, ABA, applied behavior analysis, is very important. A teacher nowadays doesn't only give information but also give skills and also try to think of in innovative manner. और जब बच्चों को वो समझना शुरू करते हैं, they used to tell what is wrong with the child in terms of reinforcement, punishment, in terms of the kind of behavior they see in the classroom. कभी कभी पेरेंट्स के पास भी टाइम नहीं होता है, फादर गोज टू द ऑफिस, मदर गोज टू द ऑफिस, द चाइल्ड इज टेकन केयर ऑफ बाय आया. तो दे पिक अप द बिहेवियर विच इज एग्जिबिटेड बाय द आया, द मेड सर्वेंट, वट एवर रॉन्ग बिहेवियर्स और गुड बिहेवियर दे हैव. इवन दे डोंट हैव टाइम टू इमिटेट गुड बिहेवियर्स ऑफ देयर पेरेंट्स. दिस इज अनदर प्रॉब्लम which sometimes children face. So the parents also should have quality parenting when they are busy in number of activities. They don't have adequate time to spend with the child. When they come back, they should spend more time with the child to see what they have learned in the school. And school alone is not sufficient for an intellectually disabled child to learn whatever is expected to learn in the natural setting. So they should facilitate, they should monitor, they should talk to the teachers and see that there is a proper interaction with the teacher, with the learning environment. They should have frequent interactions. Teacher-parent meetings are also very important. They should have regular meetings, more frequent meetings than what we have with the normal children, with the other kind of children in the regular school.
मतलब बच्चे का एनालिसिस करने के लिए.
Yes, बच्चे का एनालिसिस करने के लिए में भी हर वीक उनको मिलना चाहिए और पूछना चाहिए क्या एग्जैक्टली हो रहा है. They need to know about applied behavior analysis also, so that they can put valid questions regarding the behavioral development of the child. And when they say that you have to do this, they can re-evaluate, they can do it properly in their home setting. So now knowledge is free for everybody. People should acquire knowledge to be better human beings, to be better citizens and to serve people in a better way. If they pick up the principles, if they learn this, they can do better service for their child.
सर, जैसे कि आपने बताया कि किस तरीके से हम एक टीचर का रोल जान सकते हैं कि टीचर का रोल किस तरीके से इम्पॉर्टेंट है इन फाइंडिंग आउट एंड इन मैनेजिंग द बिहेवियर. तो जैसे कि हमने एक टीचर के लेवल पे बात करी और इसमें पेरेंट्स का भी बहुत ज़्यादा इम्पॉर्टेंट रोल है कि आपने बताया, क्योंकि पेरेंट्स की अवेयरनेस के बिना ये पॉसिबल नहीं है, क्योंकि बच्चा जो है सबसे ज़्यादा टाइम जो है वो पेरेंट्स के साथ स्पेंड कर रहा है. तो मतलब आप क्या कहेंगे कि अप्लाइड बिहेवियर एनालिसिस हाउ इट हैज़ एन इम्पॉर्टेंट रोल इन हैबिलिटेशन एंड रिहैबिलिटेशन ऑफ एन इंटेलेक्चुअल डिसेबल्ड चाइल्ड.
हैबिलिटेशन और रिहैबिलिटेशन में तो हैबिलिटेशन पर्टिकुलरली इन केस ऑफ इंटेलेक्चुअल डिसेबिलिटी वी टॉक अबाउट हैबिलिटेशन
जी,
where the functions have not developed and we are going to develop. Rehabilitation जब function lost हो जाता है, then how to recover those functions. So habilitation is more important for the intellectually disabled. Now there are number of areas in which child may have deficits, may have difficulties. Those areas are to be analyzed by looking at the behavior of the child. Why and how the behavior is so poor in certain situations, and ABA principle can be used. Now coming to the caregivers, primary and secondary caregivers. Primary caregivers are parents, even ayahs, the caretakers who take care of the child directly, right? And there may be other caregivers who will be treated as secondary caregivers, like school teachers and other people who are at a secondary level, who do not have much contact with the child, but whenever the child goes there, they take care of the child. If they understand the principle, they can serve better. Now, even the behavior of the primary and secondary caregivers should be properly analyzed by using this principle. Until unless a behavior, caring behavior is reinforced, it will not continue. If the child has the parent has a lot of stress, feels a lot of stressed while working with the child, the behavior is not improving, for instance. Child, in spite of all reinforcement punishment that they are using, child behavior is not improving. In that case, the parent feels frustrated, the parent feels awkward, the parent does not continue the behavior. At this moment, they need some kind of reinforcement. And here comes the role of the specialist, here comes the role of therapist to say that well done, you have done it very well. There is nobody to say that you are doing a good job. Parent has to do its parenting, everybody expects it. But when they are doing a good job, there is nobody to reinforce. In that case, parents should not only get reinforced but also learn how to reinforce their own behaviors. For instance, mother has done very well, he has done very good job for the child. So today evening they go to a cafe to sit and have a cup of coffee or tea, or go to the restaurant to have a good dinner, to celebrate it and to feel good about it that we have done it well. So आज हमने उनको उसको 4 लेटर सिखा दिया. That is a great achievement which he was not learning at all. एक भी लेटर, एक भी अल्फाबेट वो सीख नहीं रहा था जी. लेकिन आज मम्मी ने बैठा के बच्चा को साथ में बैठा के सिखा दिया. And that is a achievement which is to be celebrated, because improvement comes in small stages, small steps, and this should not be ignored. And they cannot hope for a large change, a big change in few sittings.
And we can say that each,
as you see normal children,
जी.
normal child in 5 sessions they can learn 26 letters, 23 letters, but in one sitting this child may learn only 1 or 2. So that is something to be celebrated, that is to be reinforced, and they should learn how to do it for themselves.
जी.
इस चीज़ को थोड़ा समझना चाहिए. Teacher, who is there to reinforce the teacher? Teacher is there to reinforce the child, but there is nobody to reinforce the teacher. Principals of schools, the managers of the institutions do have a very important role to reinforce these caregivers. So the goals have to be fixed, the program has to be fixed, and if somebody is achieving the goal earlier in a better way, he has to be reinforced. The reward should be there. A proper reward system has to be developed even for the regular caregivers who are giving care, so that caring can be enriched, caring can sustain, because everything depends on caring. Don't care the child will be more retarded, the child will not perform well. Care the child, child's retardation will be lesser. Some people believe that retarded means nothing he can do, good for nothing. It is not like that. Child can develop in many ways, in many areas. The child who was crying, if he has stopped crying while going to the school, then that is a development for him. He was not able to walk 2 steps, he is walking now 3 steps, that is a development. He may not, you cannot expect him to run at this moment, but he can walk better than before. He was falling 5 times, now he is falling for 1 time only. That is an achievement. This achievement, graded changes are to be reinforced, properly sustained. Although we are using these terms very frequently, it is necessary in day-to-day life. When we speak, when we walk, when we do any kind of activity, it gives a sense of achievement.
So the
when I wear my coat, that gives a kind of feeling of completion that I have performed this activity, and that is reinforcing.
That is an intrinsic satisfying behavior.
Nobody tells me that well done. When you wear our clothes, when you do any activity, when you brush today, nobody tells you that you well done. Nobody gives a reinforcement, but the sense of completion itself gives that it is achieved. This sense of achievement maintains all our behaviors at a higher level.
So it is the intrinsic satisfying behavior for the child, as our expert has told about the different types of situations that a parents can handle and the role of teacher with this. इसमें हमने देखा कि classroom setting में अगर हम बात करते तो teacher का किस तरह से role important है, and basically the rehabilitation part of the intellectual disabled children. तो ये हमने discuss किया. We will be discussing more about this after this short break.
This is Aparna. She loves chess and Shah Rukh Khan. Her best friend is Swati. She also has visual impairment.
La 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 la.
This is Neeraj.
La la हवा धीरे धीरे चल रही.
He plays many instruments.
सुनो जो कहानी
He loves Mohammed Rafi
है.
and cricket.
ये कहानी सदियों पुरानी है. ये कहानी हमें सुना.
He also uses crutches for mobility.
धीरे धीरे.
चंदा है तू मेरा सूरज है तू.
This is Raj Bala.
मेरी आँखों का तारा है तू. जीती हूँ मैं बस तुझे देख कर.
With her husband and daughter. She loves cooking and watching TV.
सूरज है तू. आ मेरी आँखों का तारा है तू.
She also has cerebral palsy. Look beyond the disability. Look at the person.
The state of knowledge exists. The will, the capacity, and method are usually the problem. मानसिक मंदता एक ऐसी विकलांगता है जो 18 वर्ष की आयु से पूर्व कभी भी हो सकती है, जिसमें व्यवहार अनुकूलता में कमी एवं बुद्धि क्षमता 70% से कम होती है. Alone we can do so little. Together we can do so much. भारतीय पुनर्वास परिषद द्वारा देश भर में पंजीकृत केंद्र इस बात को प्रमाणित करते हैं. NIMH प्रादेशिक केंद्र नई दिल्ली एक ऐसा ही केंद्र है जहां छात्रों को प्रशिक्षण दिया जाता है. जिसके उपरांत वे मंदबुद्धि बच्चों की सेवा में नियुक्त होते हैं. क्लासरूम टीचिंग, ग्रुप टीचिंग एवं भारतीय पुनर्वास परिषद के नव शिखर चैनल पर प्रसारित टेलीकॉन्फ्रेंसेस द्वारा संबंधित विषयों पर विस्तार पूर्वक ज्ञान दिया जाता है. मेडिकल, ऑक्यूपेशनल थेरेपी, फिजियोथेरेपी, स्पीच थेरेपी, साइकोलॉजी और स्पेशल एजुकेशन जैसे क्षेत्रों में छात्रों को प्रशिक्षित किया जाता है. प्रयोगात्मक अनुभव एवं अभ्यास के लिए टीचर ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम के उपरांत छात्रों को मंदबुद्धि बच्चों के साथ कक्षाओं में नियुक्त किया जाता है और इंडिविजुअलाइज्ड एजुकेशन प्लान का भी आधार बनाया जाता है, जिससे वे संपूर्ण शिक्षा एवं चिकित्सा शैली को समझ सकें. इस पूरे प्रशिक्षण कार्यक्रम के दौरान विद्यार्थी जर्नल्स, न्यूज़लेटर्स, पेरियोडिकल्स, चार्ट्स, मॉडल्स, कंप्यूटर ट्रेनिंग एवं टेक्स्ट बुक्स का उपयोग कर सकते हैं. कहते हैं, कीप योर फेस टू द सनशाइन एंड यू कैन नॉट सी द शैडो. इसी बात को ध्यान में रखते हुए विद्यार्थियों को सरकारी एवं गैर सरकारी संस्थाओं में नियुक्त किया जाता है, जहां वे मंदबुद्धि बच्चों के लिए निरीक्षण, प्रशिक्षण एवं अनुसंधान का दायित्व संभालते हैं और इसके पश्चात ये विद्यार्थी इस प्रशिक्षण का उपयोग मंदबुद्धि बच्चों के सामाजिक एवं शैक्षणिक उत्थान एवं विकास में करते हैं और एक लक्ष्य की ओर आगे बढ़ते हैं। और फिर लक्ष्य कितना ही दूर हो, फासला नजरों का धोखा भी तो हो सकता है। वो मिले या ना मिले, हाथ बढ़ाकर देखो।
वेलकम बैक टू आवर डिस्कशन। हमारा बेसिकली डिस्कशन जो है इट्स फोकस्ड ऑन द बिहेवियरल पार्ट और वी कैन से द अप्लाइड बिहेवियर एनालिसिस फॉर इंटेलेक्चुअल डिसेबल्ड चिल्ड्रन एंड वी हैव डिस्कस्ड सो फार वी हैव बीन डिस्कसिंग अबाउट द डिफरेंट काइंड्स ऑफ बिहेवियर और उन बिहेवियर के लिए हम कैसे एक प्रोसेस को फॉलो कर सकते हैं और किस तरीके से हम बच्चे को रीइंफोर्स कर सकते हैं, ये सब हमने डिस्कस किया with the role of teacher, the parents and the family members. So we will be discussing more about this in our today's discussion of applied behavior analysis.
हर चीज़ को सिखाने के लिए कोई चीज़ भी हो, कॉम्प्लेक्स और सिंपल, अच्छी तरह सिखाने के लिए we need to have instructional design. That forms the basis, the blueprint for learning, higher learning. बच्चा को एकेडमिक स्किल जैसे आप सिखाते हैं, यू हैव टू हैव अ डिज़ाइन, यू हैव टू हैव अ प्लान ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ विच यू विल बी इम्प्लीमेंटिंग इट. इफ द प्लान इज नॉट देयर इन माई हेड and if I keep on teaching the child, I may not learn much from that. We should have a plan, but also it should be response guided. So applied behavior analysis is basically response guided technology, the technology which is based on the response. So behavior is core of it. The behavior teaches even the teacher how to teach. If the child is not able to follow this behavior, gives some signal to the child or the parent that the child is not learning. Let him revise the program. So, but it doesn't mean that you will not have a blueprint to conduct this program. So there should be a program, instructional program for teaching any kind of skills that you are going to teach. In order to do that, you need also materials through which you will be teaching. For instance, brushing is a problem with many children. And what the teacher does, what the parent does, they used to use the normal brushes which are commercially available. These brushes, when the children use, many of them do have problems with their grips. They do not get good grips. So while brushing, it slips off. And the child doesn't get a proper feel of brushing. And he doesn't learn. While brushing, he looks elsewhere. He doesn't learn. He doesn't focus on the sensation of brushing. Because of this, he is not learning. Now, whether it is being properly brushed or not, he doesn't get any feedback of it. So if you have a mirror in front of which the child is brushing, that will give a better impression to the child because he sees that the teeth is getting cleaned and his movement is proper. This feedback he cannot get otherwise. He cannot see that his hand is moving. Movement of the hand is important for this child and may not be important for another normal child who can learn on his own. He can sing and do this also. He can move around and do this also. But this child has to stand at one place so that there will be proper stimulus control. He will look at the mirror and do it. The parent has to say, look at the mirror, don't look at me. Children have a tendency to look at their parents to have instruction. They wait for the instruction. But when he keeps on doing this and looking at the mirror, doing this particular activity, he learns from the reflection which he gets from the mirror. Sometimes we use the video techniques also to make the child understand how he was behaving in a play situation. You cannot have a mirror everywhere fitted. So modern technology is also being used to find out how the child is behaving. The child is falling, but how badly or how he is falling, he has no idea. He only has an idea about the sense of falling a bit. Then also he gets an idea because of the pain that is involved in this. But if you have a video program, if you have a video shooting of this particular activity, the child learns how he walks, what are the difficulties in his walking, and if there are qualitative changes, he can get a better feedback. These qualitative changes cannot be given verbally. Now you are walking straight, but it may not be proper, the way a normal child should walk. the child's work is better, this qualitative improvement can be seen from this video film. So that can also be used as a part of instructional technology from which the child can learn.
जी.
Parents may be using their cameras, good cameras for shooting natural scenes. They may be using for enjoyment. They may be using it for pleasure. But this camera can be used very effectively for the children when they teach them. Simple skills can be taught and analyzed better by using these techniques.
जी.
Video techniques can be used for doing task analysis. One approach is you sit on the chair and think of what can be the different steps for teaching. Another approach is just watch, record it and see, step by step how the things are developing. This method is known as armchair method.
जी.
The other one, you can see and observe and find out how it is occurring. You can use video techniques, you can use other types of techniques also. So this aspect is very important, and in every teaching program, in every instructional program, see that the consequence is properly focused. Sometimes people don't focus on consequences, they always expect a change in behavior. This consequence makes this program different than other program.
And even the slightest change in
Yes.
the child will facilitate learning.
Right. Sometimes we keep on giving feedback, but when the child improves, no reinforcement is being given. Suppose after the hard work, after teaching the child is taken to a video room, taken to a music room, and the child enjoys dancing. This dancing will reinforce this previous activity. It should be very natural. It should be very, it should be done in a very natural way, so that the child can enjoy the situation. Many of us are, used to do jogging, exercises in the morning. We keep on doing exercises. After 5 days, we are fed up. We don't continue. Many of us do suffer from this kind of problems in our day-to-day environment, day-to-day situation. Only when people become fat or people become obese, people keep on doing it number of times. Healthy people sometimes may not do this because of the fact that exhaustion is involved in this. But if this is replaced by some kind of pleasurable activities, then this activity can be done better. A simple example I am giving. Similarly, many of these training programs are very hard for the children to follow. It involves a lot of cognitive strain also for the child to learn, physical strain as well as cognitive strains. In order to avoid that, we should have a good reinforcing consequence for learning these behaviors, correcting these behaviors. This forms a major part in our instructional programs, and this can be properly generalized if you can plan it better. Some behaviors are difficult behaviors which do not occur regularly.
जी.
For instance, the child is beating up other children, showing aggressive behavior. You cannot create a situation where the child is going to beat somebody and you control it.
Artificially cannot be.
It is unethical. You cannot create a situation where the child is going to beat somebody and you give some kind of instruction to the child and make him learn not to do this. But cognitively the child can learn about this by telling him stories, by giving him talking about consequences and rewarding if he has not done this behavior for last 1 week. Teacher can reinforce the child
जी.
for not doing this behavior. This is technically known as differential reinforcement of zero rate behavior. The behavior doesn't occur even once during that period. So the behavior is reinforced. But many times, many children will not be able to stop their behaviors which they are doing number of times, maladaptive behaviors number of times.
सर जैसे
They may reduce the behavior, and if you
जी.
reinforce, this is called differential reinforcement for low rate behavior. ये व्यवहार कम होने के लिए उसको reinforcement दिया जा रहा है.
जैसे कि आपने बताया कि ये बिहेवियर कम करने के लिए हम रीइंफोर्समेंट दे रहे हैं. अगर मान लीजिए बच्चा जो बिहेवियर है जो शो कर रहा है वो कम कर रहा है ओनली when the reinforcement is given and when there is no reinforcement, कोई reinforcement बच्चे को नहीं मिला है, तब बच्चा प्रॉब्लम बिहेवियर शो कर रहा है. फिर हम क्या करेंगे, क्योंकि बच्चे तो इज इन यूजुअल हैबिट ऑफ टेकिंग reinforcement.
Now this the child's behavior is acting as a stimulus control for the caretaker also, the therapist also. Accordingly, he is giving reinforcement and not giving reinforcement. Now one has to see that there should not be any kind of, as I told you, extinction burst.
जी.
When you are ignoring a behavior to reduce it. Sometimes children engage in these behaviors to get the desired reinforcement which they were getting earlier. The child is making a lot of noise. You are not giving any attention. You have to wait till the behavior declines completely.
जी.
But if you again give attention, behavior may increase. So therefore, you have to control this kind of situation. Now many children do have they have difficulty in public places. They go to the public place, they कोई चीज़ के लिए जिद्दी करते हैं, aggressive behavior दिखाते हैं. This kind of situation can be handled by taking them number of times to that kind of situation where they can behave better. जैसे कि आज कल मार्केट में प्रॉब्लम हुआ, for few days parents do not take the child to the market. Second day फिर उसको लेके जाओ. If the behavior doesn't occur, reinforce him there. Give a good chocolate, you give something and reinforce and say that today very nicely you behaved. You take to the same supermarket, you take to the same place where the behavior occurred, so that the child will learn from the natural environment that he can improve his behavior. That gives a confidence to the child that I have improved my behavior, and he feels to be valued by showing good behavior. When you keep on giving reinforcement, you are also enhancing his self-concept that yes, I am capable of doing. From the beginning, he has developed a kind of feeling that I am good for nothing, because he is deficient in number of areas. That is why he is intellectually disabled. Because skill deficits are seen overall in most of the behaviors. So the chances of getting reinforcement is low. For a normal child, if you are not reinforcing for wearing a shirt, for this child you have to reinforce. Because of the very fact that number of behaviors are retarded. So we don't say nowadays mental retardation, we say simply retardation. It is not mentality which is retarded, the behavior which is retarded, and it can be strengthened in steps, and it can be generalized to other behaviors. The way I talked about this spillover effect, reinforcement can also have spillover effect. If one behavior is reinforced, similar other behaviors can also be reinforced because of this generalization effect. The child is no good at academics, but he wears his shirt very nicely, he combs his hair very nicely. If he is reinforced, he is more likely to concentrate on studies, because for studies he may not get a white or blue card appreciation because of his poor handwriting, but he can get several laurels, several rewards, reinforcement because of his sport activities, because of other activities, singing, coming in time, punctuality. So number of these behaviors can be reinforced, and many of these children are capable of doing this to get reinforcement. So if he is doing a normal behavior, that is to be also recognized and reinforced, so that he feels good about it. So when the self concept develops, self concept is a abstract term which is used for feeling good about something about oneself, and it comes as an overall experience when number of our behaviors are reinforced by other people. People value you, that is why you feel yourself to be great or to be good. This child doesn't have this opportunity, so he feels bad about it. He develops a state of learned helplessness. No matter whatever does, he gets punishment. If he brushes one day properly, nobody says that you have done well, you are doing well, nobody reinforces. But certainly when he cries, when he shouts, when he rocks his body, somebody comes and slaps him, somebody comes and tells something bad. So he learns that no matter whatever I do, it will be reinforced or punished. So he has learned only about punishment and nothing about reinforcement. That is why series of behaviors will not develop. They are almost like ignored behaviors. Good behaviors are ignored behaviors. Although the behavior occurs, it is normal. Parents do not talk about this. Parents talk a lot if the child does something wrong, if there is a deficient in some area. ऐसा कोई बच्चा नहीं है, intellectually disabled बच्चा नहीं है, जिस बच्चा का कोई व्यवहार अच्छा नहीं है. Maybe out of 1000 behaviors, maybe he has 20 behaviors which he has retained very well. Having eye contact is a very important issue for social interaction. The child has good eye contact and you reinforce the child. And no parent, very few parents think about this. And they feel depressed because the child is not showing other behaviors, millions and trillions of behaviors which are being exhibited by other children. They feel depressed. Oh, मेरा बेटा को क्या हो गया, ऐसा नहीं कर पा रहा है. But they should understand these behaviors are also equally important. These behaviors need to be retained, otherwise these behaviors will also not occur. Even eye contact will not occur. While talking to people, the child will look down like this. There are many good children, normal children who do not look at people straight. They will be talking like this. Yes, auntie, uncle, yes, tell me. Even they will not look at the teacher straight. That is a deficit behavior. And your child who is suffering from intellectual disability has good eye contact, which is basic thing for any kind of social interaction. You should retain it, you should maintain it, so that the child can be reinforced. Create a good reinforcing environment for the child. The child will learn that he is a good person. He is not a bad person. He has capacity to grow. When a person thinks that he can grow, he can create, he can recreate, and he can think something more than what he is doing, nothing could be better than this.
जी.
So every parent, every teacher should understand this, and that will unfold, blossom the child's potential. It is a kind of human potential development. Potential the child has, but it is a challenge for you to develop that potential. The parents who have taken this challenge, the parents who have learned to take this challenge, who have been able to develop these skills, they suffer from less mental health problems than the parents, the caretakers who fail to do it. Because of their own skill deficits, because of their lack of idea, lack of understanding of these skills, poor skills, sometimes they suffer from a lot of deficit, lot of mental health problems, depression, anxiety and other problems. That has been empirically validated, empirically studied. So more skilled you are, better person you are.
जी.
And there is no end to learning. If I am 70-year-old or 80-year-old, I have scope for learning also. And few things like
It's
this.
a very much continuous process.
Yes, continuous process. And few things like this doesn't require much of physical stamina to learn, nor much of very higher level of skills to learn. It needs mediocre level of skills to learn and pick up finer things of life. These are finer things of life.
It's just the motivation and the curiousness of the person.
Right. For instance, for a girl child to take care of herself, to comb her hair, you can teach very well. If the child is doing, you reinforce the child. Although many people are very critical about punishment. Punishment is required sometimes, little bit of punishment, and that gives a balanced view of life, because in life also we get punishment for our bad doings, our poor performance, right, in one way or other. So you cannot live without punishment. People who say that no, don't give any punishment to children, that is wrong. I do not accept that. Mild amount of punishment, like ignoring, by not accepting something, by telling very clearly that you have done something wrong, you should improve it. But what is most important is how to improve. One has to teach, one has to explain, one has to make children learn. Then the learning will be complete.
जी सर, जैसे कि आपने बताया कि हर फैक्टर को बैलेंस करके रखना और फैसिलिटेट करना लर्निंग को बहुत ज़्यादा ज़रूरी है. जैसे ये हमने आज डिस्कस किया हमारी डिस्कशन में कि अप्लाइड बिहेवियर एनालिसिस, इन शॉर्ट वी कैन से ABA फॉर द इंटेलेक्चुअल डिसेबल्ड चिल्ड्रन. सो फाइनली मतलब आप हमारे व्यूअर्स को क्या बताना चाहेंगे? इट्स रिगार्डिंग द हैंडलिंग ऑफ द चाइल्ड दे हैंडल एंड द पेरेंट्स एज अ पार्ट ऑफ काउंसलिंग, आप क्या बताना चाहेंगे?
हमारे आम जिंदगी में जो हम इंटेलिजेंस का व्याख्या करते हैं, एक इम्पॉर्टेंट उसमें वो कड़ी इम्पॉर्टेंट इशू है कि वन शुड बी सेल्फ क्रिटिकल ऑल्सो. Not only that we are teaching our intellectually disabled child, but also we are teaching ourselves how to teach them better. Not only we teach the child, but also we learn how to teach them better day by day as we keep on interacting with the child. And the success of applied behavior analysis lies in understanding of oneself by using these principles. Once you understand oneself, how deficient you are in delivering reward or punishment, how deficient or efficient rather you are in programming your environment, you will be from there you will learn how to perform better, how to design a better learning environment for the children suffering from this kind of disabilities. In India, we have got a large number of people who suffer from intellectual disability, and it is estimated to be from 2% to 5%. And if you can use this is an inexpensive method, doesn't require much of expense for this, and we can do wonderful things for children suffering from this kind of disabilities. In every sphere of life, it has an application. And efficient application can improve their lives, the quality of life of children suffering from learning some this kind of disability in a wonderful manner.
तो सर जैसे आपने बताया कि किस तरीके से एक पेरेंट्स को ध्यान रखना चाहिए, प्रोफेशनल हैंडल करते हुए ध्यान देते हैं. आप जैसे यू आर इन द फील्ड फॉर मैनी इयर्स एंड यू आर हैविंग एक्सपीरियंसेस, सो फ्रॉम योर एक्सपीरियंस वुड यू लाइक टू शेयर समथिंग दैट पेरेंट्स और टीचर्स ऑफन मिस्टेक देम, और वो उन कुछ बातों का ध्यान नहीं रखते हैं? आप अपनी एक्सपीरियंस से कुछ बताना चाहेंगे?
एक गैप ऑफ अंडरस्टैंडिंग रहता है कभी कभी टीचर्स, केयर गिवर्स और प्रोफेशनल्स के बीच में. प्रोफेशनल्स कभी कभी सोचते हैं दे आर बेस्ट इन देयर स्किल्स, दे लर्न ए लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स, दे नो ए लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स which the parents cannot learn. So sometimes they undermine the capacity, the capability of the teachers and parents who are working with these children suffering from this kind of disabilities. Now, even though the best professional available in the field may not be knowing the ground realities of a child suffering from intellectual disabilities, From that point of view, the parents, teachers know best about the child, about their environment, the practical aspect of it. And sometimes the therapist should sit with them to understand how they understand the child and what are the environmental requirements and what are the realities in the environment. Even if the best treatment program is given, it may not be successful until unless this is taken into consideration. Nowadays, people are talking about the selection of treatment programs. Until unless it is acceptable for the parents, this is called acceptability study. We say that this kind of punishment, reward or reinforcement has to be given in this particular environment. These kind of materials are to be used with the children, but it is not acceptable to the parents. Parents do not have skills, nor they have any kind of they have any money to purchase these things. In that case, it becomes a total failure. Therefore, talking to the parents, understanding their situation is very much required to make it very successful. Many parents suffer from anxiety and stress disorders. A therapist should take notice of it. When a person is suffering from mental health problems, may himself or herself may not learn anything, may not like it, may not like to listen. Sometimes they feel that as if they are being undermined, although it may not be true also. So that attitudinal gap, the gap in understanding should be bridged out before we launch any kind of programs. They should understand what generalization means. Basics of ABA they should understand. Now textbooks are available now, number of information are available, internet is a great resource for us. You can get number of information on this, but the question is how to implement it, how to do it, and time to time modify, revise, and that will facilitate learning. And perhaps the role of the therapist, teacher will be like that of a facilitator to improve the situation, to improve the child's performance by giving repeated feedback, repeated instruction. Nowadays, simple instruments like your cell phone can work marvelously to monitor whether they are doing it or not. 10 o'clock he has to be reinforced with bread, jam or butter or whatever food things, food and other things for his good behavior in the morning, and that is the timing you have fixed. Even on cell phone you can find out whether the reinforcement is being given in time or not, whether the reinforcement is being given just after the behavior is over or not. Child has performed very well today. मम्मी इज सेइंग दैट वो ठीक है पापा आएंगे जब वो चॉकलेट लेके आएंगे. जब पापा आ जाते हैं वो 10 बजे रात में आते हैं अपना काम ख़त्म करके और बच्चा उस समय सो जाता है. जो काम बच्चा ने किया इमीडिएटली उसको रिइंफोर्स ऑर्डिनरी रिइंफोर्समेंट देते तो ये बिहेवियर कब से वो स्ट्रेंथन हो जाता है. बट वेटिंग फॉर द पापा टू कम एंड रिइंफोर्स a lot of time is spent unnecessarily. Number of maladaptive behavior occur during this period of time. Crying, looking for the reinforcer, playing, other activities get reinforced. Even if the child is awake, the parent comes back and to give a reinforcer, the child may not take it properly because before that he must be demanding something. So it is not the good behavior of doing something homework, but it is the demanding behavior which gets reinforced. Because
so
during that period,
reward should be
it should be immediate, contingent, so that it will have a desired effect on the child. Although these everybody knows about it little bit, but it has to be used scientifically to see its effect. As I told, that this is a response guided approach. Immediately you have to see the response to your reinforcement, your punishment. You are saying this is a mild punishment, but the child is very much afraid of the teacher. Teacher simply said don't do this, the child is afraid because he has a prior conditioning. Maybe that the father is beating the child quite a lot, is punishing the child quite a lot, and the teacher looks like his father. Even if he says don't do it, he expects that he will be spanking because of similarities. We do not know how people judge, how this child has judged another person. So you have to use applied behavior analysis in a very careful manner to find out how the child react to this particular technique, particular event, particular contingency.
जी सर, जैसे कि आपने अपने एक्सपीरियंस से हमारे व्यूअर्स के साथ शेयर किया आज के टॉपिक के बारे में, दैट वाज रिगार्डिंग द अप्लाइड बिहेवियर एनालिसिस. आई वुड लाइक टू गिव अ क्विक रिकैप टू दिस. हमने अपनी डिस्कशन स्टार्ट करी थी कि बिहेवियर प्रॉब्लम्स बच्चों में होते हैं और होते हैं इंटेलेक्चुअल डिसेबिलिटी वाले बच्चों में, और हमने उसमें देखा कि एडिक्वेट बिहेवियर नहीं होता. एडिक्वेट बिहेवियर किसको कहते हैं? विच इज़ सोशली एक्सेप्टेबल एंड प्लेजेंट फॉर अदर्स, विच इज़ नॉट हार्मफुल फॉर अदर्स. और प्रॉब्लम बिहेवियर की अगर हम बात करते हैं तो उसमें हमने देखा कि द बिहेवियर विच इज़ इंटरफेयरिंग विद द लर्निंग ऑफ द एनवायरनमेंट डज नॉट फैसिलिटेट द लर्निंग. And basically we are focusing about the learning the different tasks, different the concepts of the child. क्योंकि बच्चे जो इंटेलेक्चुअल डिसेबल्ड बच्चे होते हैं उसमें एक इमिटेटिव लर्निंग, इंसिडेंटल लर्निंग की एक लैक होता है, एक कमी होती है। तो उस कमी को पूरा करने के लिए, टू फिल दैट गैप, वी हैव टू टीच द चाइल्ड इन अ नेचुरल सिचुएशन, नॉट इन द आर्टिफिशियल सिचुएशन, जैसे कि हमारे एक्सपर्ट ने बताया। और बहुत सारे एग्जाम्पल से हमने देखा कि ABC मॉडल को फॉलो करते हुए, दैट इज़ एंटीसीडेंट बिहेवियर कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस, उसको फॉलो करते हुए हम बच्चे का ABA कैसे कर सकते हैं, विच इज़ कॉल्ड द अप्लाइड बिहेवियर एनालिसिस। दैट वॉज द टुडेज टॉपिक ऑफ डिस्कशन. Thank you so much, sir, for giving all these informations to our viewers. That was all about the today's session. This is time for the closing of our session. Thank you so much.